Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались з кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів. Робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить. Хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар? Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ. Тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Хотите жить – бегите. Хотите жить – сдавайтесь в плен. Россия не получит новую территорию Украины. Россия присоединит себя к той катастрофе, которую она принесла на оккупированную территорию нашей страны. Оккупант заполняет могилами захваченную территорию Украины. И все больше могил на территории самой России. Ценой того, что один человек в России хочет продолжать эту войну, кто хочет войны больше, чем жизнь. Ваши жизни, граждане России.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 550 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again on another Fundraiser night. Yeah!
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. And the Ukrainians have continued to keep the momentum in the southern front and have continued to push Russian forces back. It is massive news, and it appears that finally, for one of the first times, the Russian divisions in those areas are finally starting to crumble. But before we get into all of that news tonight, we of course have a Sunday fundraiser. It is that time of the week, and tonight's fundraiser is for Razum for Ukraine. Razum for Ukraine is an amazing nonprofit that has been operating inside of the territory of Ukraine ever since, even before this phase of the war began around 2022, and has been doing amazing work both medically and also humanitarianly to provide food and medical aid to Ukrainian citizens throughout the entirety of the country. It is an amazing nonprofit. Nearly 92% of all of the funds they receive go into field work, with another 8% going into advertising and staff funding. It is absolutely unbelievable, and especially to get a percentage like that in a nonprofit, it is incredibly rare. And also, I have to say that tonight's going to be a little bit of a special night. Tonight, the whole night is going to be a general order. This is the first time we've ever done anything like this. We're not going to be calling a special order at any point during this stream. The entire stream is going to be a special order for the fundraisers. So this is going to be special order X001, so that way we can identify it from here forward if we have one like this. But we're going to designate this one with an X at the beginning, and it's going to be the first of its kind. The entire night is going to be a special order number 1, and we are going to be absolutely slaughtering the fundraiser goal tonight. This is a directive coming from the Enforcer to the entirety of the Lee Spring Army. We are going to blow this fundraiser out of the water to the point that it will be well above $5,000 and maybe even over $10,000. But I want this thing to be blown up tonight all the way. The Lee Spring Army is going to the moon tonight, and we are going to be helping as many people as we can in Ukraine. And so with that, long live the Lee Spring Army, and the Lee Spring Army will be sending its regards tonight. But moving on from that,
and also real quick, just a real quick PSA, by the way. If you have a question tonight, no super chats, by the way. I see no questions coming in, and please tag @Enforcer Matt in your question, and I'll add it to our spreadsheet so that way we can have a long list of questions to go over near the end of the stream.
And so with that, now with that little special announcement out of the way, and now the donations are rolling in. We're already at 2.1 thousand. So how far can we go? If we make it to $5,000 in the first 30 minutes of the stream, so there's about 14 more minutes, I'm going to throw in another $100. So if y'all can make it to $5,000, I will throw in a whole other $100 so that way we can get this thing on up into space. The Leaf Spring Army will be remembered as the community that has fundraised the most and has helped to save as many lives as possible, because that's what we do. That is what the LSA is. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into the southern front, where we've been seeing that Ukrainian forces have continued on an amazing push and have been able to cover a decent amount of ground today. Of course, operational security being respected, we have not been able to get into exact details and information about the ground that has been made, but ground is being covered nonetheless, as we are starting to see even more Russian prisoners being taken by the Ukrainians, showing that Russian positions are being overrun and they are beginning to take an exorbitant amount of ground. And so moving into our first clip here, we can see those Russian prisoners. We can see one of them right here. See him talking to him a little bit.
А семья есть у тебя? Пиздец.
Well, you see him talking to him a little bit more. He's a little untalkative. They're saying, "Who are you?" He's like, "I don't know." And they're like, "Where are you from?" "I don't know. I'm new to this place."
Домой хочешь?
That's the Russian.
This is Ruski, блядь.
Хочу, братан.
Oh, he's just playing natural. He's playing dumb. All right.
Oh, you see all the Ukrainian soldiers standing around? And great to see. They got another Russian prisoner. So, absolutely wonderful. And also, another interesting thing, as some of y'all are pointing out, is that it appears that he still has his rifle, because he still has it right there. We don't know what kind of rifle that really is, but still, great to see they took another prisoner, and great to know another one has been added to the exchange fund. Moving on from that and into our next clip in the area, we also got to see a small half-minute clip of one of the Leopard 2A4s that is attached to the 47th Brigade in action in this area today. And so, here's the clip. And we're going to be muting the absolutely hip-hop to the top music and just watching the Leopard 2A4 in action. It appears that the camera is mounted below the gun somewhere on the upper glacis of the hull, and we can see the tank firing and now advancing at a rapid speed. And when you see the stabilizer there working, we now see the tank deploy a smoke screen and then drive through it. It appears that it's going to give itself some concealment, so when it pops off the next shot, it can fire and then reverse like it's doing right now. But we didn't see it fire, interestingly enough. Still, really cool to see a Leopard 2A4 in action, and also really neat to see that it used its smoke grenade dischargers to give itself a little bit of concealment out there on the open plain. We rarely ever see that, so it's really cool to see that stuff in action. Moving on from that and into our next clip, we also saw that the situation has gotten so desperate that the Russian army is having to call in every single wild card that they have to try and stop the Ukrainian advance in the area at this point. It appears that the Ukrainian advance, like I was saying earlier, is completely unopposed at this point. It appears that they are starting to move forward, at least in Southern Front terms, unopposed, at a fairly decent rate, all the way, from what we understand, possibly into Ilchenkove today. We still can't confirm that completely. Of course, operational security being respected, we can't say exactly where Ukrainian forces are, but we did see a clip of the Russians having to use one of their aircraft to drop some Fab 500 bombs, or as they call them, Cap 500s, onto the Ukrainian forces. It appears that the situation has gotten so bad that the rare appearance of close air support is now being seen in this area, and it is showing that the situation has truly become desperate for the Russian forces. Russian aircraft are rarely ever used on the front lines due to the limited numbers that they have, the poor training of the pilots in the Russian Air Force, and also the very strong Ukrainian anti-air defenses that exist near the front lines, making it practically impossible for them to really get any kind of effective air support in the area. So this is a very rare occurrence, and once again, backing up the belief that things have gotten incredibly dire for the Russians in this area. But you hear the sound of the jet roaring over this Ukrainian position somewhere. And we see him looking off into the distance, and it appears that we just heard the explosions right there of both of the bombs. And we can hear that right there. And now the Ukrainian is coming out of his foxhole inside of this tree line, and we can see the two mushroom clouds of the Cab 500s that just hit out in that field. These are, of course, being directed at Ukrainian forces, and I have to say this again. This is showing an incredibly desperate situation. the Russians are clearly running out of options. The Air Force, for most of this war, has been one of Russia's last resorts to stop a Ukrainian advance, and it usually comes at an exorbitant loss of Russian aircraft and also pilots. While poorly trained, they are still invaluable to the Russian Air Force because it's either poorly trained pilots or no pilots. And so the fact of even seeing them using these CAP 500 bombs in the area is further proof that things are truly falling apart at this point in this part of the front line. Moving on from the area of Robotyne and over to its eastern side, we've also seen some interesting developments to the flanks of Robotyne. Specifically, that the Russians, according to the Institute for the Study of War, are starting to have some very major issues with mutinies and also dissension within the lower ranks of the officer corps. Moving on into the first bit, probably the most important one and the bulk of the issue is that Russian forces, according to the Institute for the Study of War, which has been gathering information from Russian military bloggers and also reports that have been making their way out of the ground area, according to them, Russian units are continuing to mutiny at a pretty regular rate due to no pay and also very low supplies and rock bottom morale. All things combined, they are continuing to mutiny even with the Russians continuously trying to suppress insubordination with nearly medieval means. According to the direct statement, Russian irregular formations remain willing to threaten to withdraw from combat unilaterally despite recent efforts by Russian military command to purge and suppress insubordination. The rest of the article continues to talk about that in greater detail, but what we can gather from this is that the situation is still quite poor inside of the Russian forces in this area, and may also be the reason why we're seeing the Russians beginning to rout in the area of Robotyne and Novoprokopivka. Those units in those areas might not have the morale to continue on the way they do, and that may be a continuance of this reason, that they're largely mutinying or their morale is so low they may as well be combat ineffective. Moving on from that, and into the next little bit of news, we also got to hear that apparently this isn't just within the lower enlisted that are getting no pay. Apparently there's a decent amount of dissension also coming from the junior officers and NCOs of the Russian army, according to the Institute for the Study of War as well. They went into great detail on this today in the Institute for the Study of War, and so I'm assuming that they got a lot of additional information about what's been going on in the ground situation as far as the Russian forces go. And according to the Institute for the Study of War, the Russian Ministry of Defense is reportedly prosecuting the junior officers and soldiers of a Russian unit that complained about senior commanders' inattention to frontline issues following an MOD pattern of deflecting blame away from senior officers. And we all know
I thought Russia took kindly to complaints. Don't they have like a complaint box or something? Well, how are they going to attack these people?
Of course they do, Matthew. They have a complaint box. They go, oh, you have complaint? Please, place it in the box. And then when you place it in, it grabs the sheet, it scans it digitally to make sure that it can recognize your handwriting signatures so that way they can arrest you. And then it goes into the bottom part of the box where there's just a little shredder and then it shreds up the complaint. That is the Russian complaint box.
They put the scrap of paper in the box, and then they say, and then they turn the box around, says the beating box.
That's it. Dude, they sit there and you put in a complaint. They say, oh, please come down to the basement. We would just like to ask a couple of questions. And then you go down there and they have like torture racks and crap down there. And they're like, why did you say that? I'm just wondering. Isn't the Russian army a beautiful place? And they're like, oh yeah, it's great. Perfect. But anyways,
the Russian beatbox is a little bit different than America. The beatbox over there is like literal, like you get beat.
Man, I'm telling you. But still, apparently this is starting to become a very widespread issue from what the Institute for the Study of War is picking up on, and it may be a big reason why we're seeing that Russian defensive positions are becoming far less efficient as the war keeps on going. Also, really quickly, we are at $3.3 thousand nearly on the fundraiser, and there is another 5 minutes to raise $1.7 thousand. If y'all do, I will throw in even another 100 on top of the 100 I've already thrown in tonight to blow the fundraiser even over $5,000. So hopefully we can reach it. I'm feeling like we can. And remember, everyone, tonight is a special order. It is not a general order, which is when a particular moment in the stream is for donations. This is a special order. We are trying to blow up this fundraiser tonight as best as we can. Razom is an amazing nonprofit and an incredible organization to support. They've been helping out massively inside of Ukraine. They are also a Ukrainian-based nonprofit as well, and their support means a lot to the folks inside of of Ukraine and on the ground in the fields. But moving on from that and from the statements from the Institute for the Study of War, it appears that the Southern Front situation is also becoming a little bit more morbid and dark. And while I usually try and keep a positive tone on everything we cover on this channel, it sadly can't be taken on this one. This is just a sickening thing to see. Some Russians were replacing something inside of a minivan that they were using for military purposes, and the drone actually had bomblets attached to it, and its mission was to destroy any Russian military vehicles it came up on. What happened is that when the drone came up onto this minivan, it saw that the Russians were using a small child practically as a shield to prevent them from being bombleted, stopping the drone from dropping its bomblet, and also putting that child into harm's way in the middle of a war zone. Here's the video footage, which is proof of what I just said. So here's the clip. We can see the Russians move something over to the side, and there's a small child right there, which is standing on the side of the road. And we can see them trying to work on the engine of this car here, as the child just sits there. And of course, with the child being there, the Ukrainians can't call in any kind of artillery or drop a bomblet onto him, because that kid would end up getting killed if they did that. And so all the drone can do is sit here and watch and see what the Russians are doing. We can see a UAZ passing by, which has now come to a stop, and we can now see more Russian soldiers getting out and trying to help out these two soldiers with the child shield on what they should do with the car. We now see them continuing to try and figure out what to do with the car. The child is still standing there. And we can see the kid is obviously scared and very concerned, because the kid tried to get close to the soldier. And of course, in the normal Russian fashion, the soldier decides to just outright ignore the kid and just move on. Although the kid's clearly distressed. Showing y'all, if you wanted any emotional backing to, oh, wait a minute, is this them using the kid as a human shield? It clearly is, because they don't even care about the kid. And we can now see all of them getting inside of this UAZ. Kid's still over there on the side of the road, closing the doors and driving off. And the kid's left there.
Damn.
That's some pretty messed up stuff.
Yeah, that's about as messed up as it gets.
And as soon as the child was no longer needed as a human shield, they just left it on the side of the road with a broken down car, just like it was a part of it. And that's why we run fundraisers like we do. Because people always sit there and they go, oh, the Russians are great people. Who cares? It's a European issue. We shouldn't be involved. Or the Russians are going to crush everyone in the world. And while I'm always talking from a strategic aspect, and especially an American-centric strategic aspect, this is a huge reason why one should always support Ukraine. Because not just is it a strategic issue, it's a humanitarian issue. They just left that kid there. If you didn't have any further proof of the Russians being sick bastards in any other description, this is it right here. It's this video. They just used that kid as a shield, and as soon as that kid lost its value as a human shield, they have left that child there on the side of that road to die. The Ukrainians will not be able to save this kid. This kid is miles behind the line. So this kid's completely on their own in the middle of this field. Who knows what's happened to him since this video played. And while this is something I usually am dissuaded against, this is why we run fundraisers like this. And I'm going to use this as a moment to talk about our fundraiser tonight again for Razom. Supporting Ukraine is vitally important. And our fundraiser for Razom, it doesn't help the Ukrainian soldiers to get bullets, guns, or bulletproof vests or anything like that. It doesn't help them to get anything like that. But one thing it does is that it takes the pressure off the Ukrainian government to focus on the humanitarian side of things, because we're taking care of that. And it allows them to focus entirely on the military side of things. So that way these areas can be liberated. So that way kids aren't going through this kind of stuff. This is just absolutely sickening. If you've ever seen, this is the closest we've ever seen to true atrocities happening to kids that we can actually show on air. And I've seen some things, and of course it's been a long war and a lot of videos have come out, and I've seen some terrible things. But this is the worst one that we could have ever shown on stream that would be allowed on YouTube. And so if this pisses you off, I think that this is a good moment to, of course, look at the fundraiser tonight for Razom for Ukraine and to support it. We are at $4,098, and we are
Hey.
getting very close to reaching 5,000. But every single dollar, even if you can just put in $1 into this fundraiser, every single dollar counts in helping out the Ukrainians to be able to focus on the war effort and eventually push the Russians out of areas in the south and in the Donbass, so that way things like this don't happen to kids anymore. But with that, we're going to be moving on from this little clip, which is absolutely revolting and sickening to see, and we're now going to be moving on into the area of Rozove, where we saw that a Russian tank ended up turning into a Roman candle. And we can see the drone flying on in towards the tank. We can see it right there. It gets hit. We can't see if there's any crew in it, but we do see the tank turn into a roaring fireball. And we can see it being hit again from the distance. And in a second, we'll see the tank begin to brew up. And we can see a little bit of smoke coming from it. And that tank is certainly one for the books. And of course, absolutely wonderful to see. And you know, I'm actually going to have to circle back real quick because this just hit me while we were watching this clip. Because we always, you know, we all know this because many of y'all have been around for a while on this channel. We always get a good laugh out of watching the Russians get bested, especially if there's a crew in a tank or if they get hit by a drone nade or something like that. Because, you know, something that people always want to say, critics always want to say about this channel is, oh, you know, it's so wrong to sit there.
Dang, we hit goal.
What?
Let's
We
go,
hit
Chugga
goal?
Chugga Eagle.
Eagle! Chugga Chugga!
Let's
You know
go.
what? You know what? We hit it in 32 minutes. That's close enough. I'm throwing in 100. Let's go. We just hit $5,000 on the fundraiser in 30
Man.
minutes. We are
That is
going
fast.
to the moon tonight. And let me go throw in another
Damn
100.
good.
So let me do that again real quick. And here it
I'm trying
comes
to keep up with
again.
these donations here.
Man, it's coming in fast tonight. And remember, everyone, tonight is a special order through and through. It is a special order until the very end of the night. And so if you want to support Ukraine, now, of course, I'm not saying, you know, support it until you're bankrupt or anything, but the entire night is a special order. If you have anything to support Ukraine with and to support Razom for Ukraine with, make sure to donate to it so that way we can help out as many people out there as possible. But getting back to what I was saying, before we hit the goal, which it took me completely by surprise, that was shocking. We did that so freaking quick. One thing that we always hear on this channel, and many of y'all have heard this before, is critics who always want to be on a moral high ground when it comes to watching the Russians get bested. And when I mean bested, I mean, you know, turn into graves. And people always want to say, oh, that's wrong, because they don't want to be there, and they don't want to do this, or they don't want to do that. You know, those folks may be right. And I'm having a pretty good feeling, going back to this clip here real quick, that these Russian soldiers don't want to be in Ukraine. But do you think that that really cares to them when they use that kid right there as a human shield? Doesn't seem like it cared to them much at all whether they wanted to be in Ukraine or not. They said, you know, screw the kid. It can freeze to death in the middle of the field tonight. I just care about, you know, getting in my little Jeep here and driving off and just leaving the kid. So screw the kid. And, you know, that's something I think is pretty messed up. You know, to sit there and try and act like the Russians as a military, and, you know, the people are a little different because there are people in Russia that don't support this war. That's a whole other story, the Russian citizenry. But to try and act like the Russian army at this point is a redeemable force, like there are just people there who are just unfortunate victims of circumstance. It's a little sickening to me. That's like saying, hey, you know, the Nazi soldiers in the Wehrmacht who went around killing Jews and Eastern Europeans, I mean, you know, not all of them were bad guys, right? They all just happened to be in the German army. Yeah, sure, they were drafted, but, you know, I'm sure they could be excused of the war crimes that they also committed, maybe on just a personal basis, because they wanted to. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right at all. And, you know, and this is a little bit more meaningful tonight to me, because of course there is someone out there, the virtue signaler, or as we call him, the blithering idiot, who wanted to again go on a rant, apparently today, from what I was told, about how we laugh at Russians getting bested, or as he likes to say, Russians getting brutalized or whatever. And to that I say yes, I 100% do, because when I see videos like this, it makes me think, you know, if these Russians got plastered by a drone bomb after what they did to that kid, I would laugh. I really would. Because this is messed up beyond belief. And almost every single Russian in the Russian army at this point is doing sick stuff like this. all over the front lines. I've rarely ever seen a video clip of Russians actually caring, actually taking care of their wounded soldiers on the field even. You don't see that stuff. You don't. And it's absolutely sickening. And that's why we on this channel make it a policy that when the Russians get slammed, when the Russians get plastered, when they get blown to pieces, we will laugh. Because I know that when we laugh at that, the Ukrainians have ensured that those sick people will not do anything like they did to this kid again. And so with that, we're now going to be moving back off of this clip and back onto the front lines of Ukraine, but more specifically, we're going to be moving a little bit behind the lines, because the Ukrainians are constantly training more forces, either through volunteering or conscription, to join those front lines and to push the Russians out of those areas to save those kids from such a fate, and to save all of the Ukrainians in the occupied areas from such a fate as that. And we saw today that some Humvees from the 127th were on exercise. We can see a couple of guys posing for a picture right here. Pretty cool to see the Humvees. I love the Humvees. And while the Humvees are a little dated, you gotta admit, those things are great. I mean, they look good. We can see a Ukrainian soldier here in the turret ring with a PKM, I believe. We can also see them dismounting from a Humvee in the training exercise. And in the last little bit, we can see the PKM machine gunner on top of the Humvee once more, surveying the area. But really nice to see that the 127th TDF is in training still, and hopefully, whenever they're brought to the front lines, they will be incredibly effective against the Russians, and hopefully we'll be able to push them out of the territory. With that, we're going to be moving on from the Humvees on exercise, and really quickly, I have to say this. We have reached $7.3 thousand on this fundraiser in 37 minutes. This fundraiser is going mental. Matthew, shut down the current poll and run a poll asking folks if they want the goal to be raised, because I think tonight is the night to reach 10,000.
Man, I say just raise it.
I say, you know what? We're going to just raise it. No questions asked. We're raising this thing. So really quickly,
Yeah,
let me
screw
go.
democracy. Raise that thing.
You know what? The Lee Spring Army, the Lee Spring Army is going places tonight. I'm telling you that, and they're great places. So let me go and find the Razom fundraiser we got running right now. Let's see here. It must be... Damn, where did it go? Let's see. It's this one, I believe. Let me see. This one's running right now, isn't it? Yep, it is. So this one's going up to 10K. And boop. And so now it should be changed. And let me see if it did. And it did. So this fundraiser is now the one that's going to reach $10,000. The Lee Spring Army can do it.
Man.
The Lee Spring Army has never backed down from raising incredibly massive amounts to help out people in Ukraine. And Razom is the fundraiser to do it through. Every fundraiser we run is the fundraiser to do it through, but Razom is especially exceptional. They are an amazing one. And hopefully we can reach 10,000 tonight, so that way we can help out in, Razom for Ukraine with another $10,000 to support. Who knows how much medical supplies or how much food that may buy for Ukrainians out there that need it. And it's great to know that the Lee Spring Army is going to reach it. I'm not even going to say we might reach it. I know the Lee Spring Army is going to reach it, because the Lee Spring Army has never missed a goal. It never has. And every single one of y'all have been here on the space of the internet, battling it out each and every day for Ukraine to have its chance, for Ukraine to keep on fighting, and for this channel to continue to help out Ukraine. And through the Lee Spring Army, this channel has been able to do that. And as I watch this live chat right now, that is absolutely blowing up with donations. I know that 10,000 will be reached, and we'll be able to help out even more Ukrainians tonight than we normally have been able to over the past month. And so with that, we are now moving back into the news. Let me go and set up all my stuff again over here on the side, because I had to go change some stuff around to be able to get to the YouTube Give section. And so, we are now getting back into the news, moving out of the training grounds, and moving on down into the area of Antalya. Because I have to make a special note about this. Everyone's always saying, oh, you know, the Russians could cave in the United States. Well, not everyone, but some people say out there that the Russians could actually cave the United States in if they started a war with us, or if we started a war with them. Everyone's always saying that. But I think something today has gone and thrown that on its head, because we saw in the port of Antalya today the absolute Chad of a ship arrive, the Gerald R. Ford. The Gerald R. Ford supercarrier, the largest one in the world, and probably the most powerful one by armament and just size alone, arrived in the port of Antalya today on the southern side of Turkey. Here's a picture from the rear of the Gerald R. Ford showing the stern of the ship, as well as a little bit of the flight deck and also the tower. Moving on from that, we can then see a picture taken from the tower of all of the amazing F-18 Super Hornets that are sitting out on that flight deck, ready to go at any given moment's notice. quite a nice bit of them. A very big bit of them. Moving on to the next picture, we also got to see a picture from Antalya looking out at the Gerald R. Ford in the harbor. And then in the last picture, we also got to see the Gerald R. Ford moored outside of Antalya in the middle of the harbor once more, but from a different angle. Absolutely amazing to see this ship. It is the first of its class, and it is also absolutely game-changing as far as supercarriers go. It dwarfs the Nimitz class in almost every single way. This is truly a representation and the pride of the U.S. Navy at this point. And let me tell you, you know what, we're going to rabbit hole a little bit, because let me tell y'all a little bit about the Gerald R. Ford, because for everyone to always be talking about how the Chinese and the Russians outdo the United States, nobody ever really looks at what we have and then compares it to what the Russians or the Chinese have. So let me go find the Gerald R. Ford carrier for y'all right here.
Good Lord, 1,000 note. Did you see that?
1,000 noke! Call it chicken and gnocchi. But anyways,
dang, man, we're up to 8.3 thousand now.
8.3 in 40 minutes. We have been, the Leaf Spring Army has been raising nearly $2,000 every 10 minutes at this point for this fundraiser. I would bet at that rate, we are going to reach 10,000 before 10 o'clock is even over with, or 11 o'clock Eastern time is done with. We are killing it tonight. And I've got to thank all of y'all so much, because we are helping out in a massive way. And you know what? I don't even have to give y'all thanks. We're going to give all the thanks when we get to the question segment, because I know we're going to reach 10,000 by that point, and we're going to go freaking mental. But anyways,
we're killing it, Jerry. We're killing it.
We're killing it, Jerry. Killing it. But anyways, moving on into the Gerald R. Ford. Here is a good picture of the Gerald R. Ford when it entered service in 2017, and it's an absolutely beautiful ship. I have to actually say, aesthetically, I think it looks better than the Nimitz class.
I mean, it looks pretty good to me. I don't know about the small, like, little command post or whatever they call that spot where they actually pilot the ship from. It looks a little out of proportion for some reason.
Out of proportion because they're saving space for all the aircraft, Matthew. They're trying to enlarge the flight deck. That's it. That's actually why it's so small. They're trying to minimize the size of the tower so that way they can give more room on the flight deck for aircraft to be ready to go. So that's actually a deliberate choice. And I got to say, I really like the look of it. To be honest, I like the look of the smaller tower. It honestly looks better to me. But this ship cost $37 billion. Actually, the program cost $37 billion. A single ship costs $13 billion to build. These things are so big in cost that they cost more than any of the aid packages we've sent to Ukraine at this point in a singular instant. So these ships are incredibly expensive, to say the least. But it's not expensive just for the hell of it. This isn't expensive just because it has to be expensive. This isn't expensive because some Russian commissar out there is taking a whole billion for himself and getting a private jet. No, 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 no. This thing delivers. Because this thing can carry an entire whopping 75 plus aircraft. 75 of them on one ship. Most airfields can't even cover that many aircraft. Most airfields, most air bases can maybe have about 30 aircraft on them at a time. The Gerald R. Ford carries 75 of them on a single aircraft carrier. How does that compare to other countries? Because, you know, that's a pretty big number, but, you know, the Russians, they're always saying that Kuznetsov, oh, golly, that thing could blow away a Gerald R. Ford. That's what they say. So let's go pull that up. The Kuznetsov. The Kuznetsov is currently under refit right now and also caught on fire in the refit. So now the refit's being pushed further back. It will be operational in, I believe, 2 to 3 years at this point again. But this is Russia's only aircraft carrier. The 1950s is calling, and Dwight D. Eisenhower is currently overthrowing some government in Central America because the banana company said so. And they built this thing to counter the United States at sea. What can it do? Well, it can carry a whopping 18 actual fighter aircraft, and then another 6 MiG-29s, and that's it. So adding those together, about 25 aircraft can be carried on the Kuznetsov, and then another 6 helicopters. That's it. 25 aircraft. The Gerald R. Ford carries 75 of them on a single ship. You would have to have about 4 Kuznetsov-class carriers to be able to compare it to a single Gerald R. Ford-class supercarrier. When you put that into perspective, why the hell does everyone, not everyone, I have to stop saying that because it's not everyone, why in the world do people out there give the Russians credit militarily for anything? I don't know why.
I don't even know. Like, I saw somebody yesterday, I'm not sure who made it, and the person on Twitter that reposted it, I don't think made it, but some people say that Russia is still the #2 military in the world, which is absolutely not true, because if they were, then how come they're having a hard time with Ukraine? because supposedly Russia is the big powerful force and Ukraine is a small guy, but yet Ukraine is winning. How's that work out?
It's so stupid when people say that. Russia is probably the 5th or 6th best military in the world at this point, maybe even lower than that. Hell, I would say they, whatever they are on the ranking, it needs to be lower than Ukraine, because if Ukraine can hold them off, that means that any country that has a military slightly better than Ukraine's could also hold them off as well. And also, excuse me real quick while we go back to the fundraiser, because it has reached $9,100. We are $900 away from reaching $10,000 for Razum for Ukraine. We are getting there tonight. You know what? You know what, Matthew? We got to play into this. We got to play into this, Matthew. Because, oh, buddy, oh, man, I'm telling you. We're going to have to do what some people say. Some people say that when we run fundraisers, we sound like televangelists, just to back this little thing up with some context. So, help out your fundraiser. Help it.
Well, let me tell you.
Let me tell you. Raise that thing up there. Get it on up there. Get it on up there. Help them, dang it. Help them. But anyways.
I'm telling you.
Man, I'm telling you. My vocal cords are almost blown away already. So if y'all are thinking that's loud, it's loud. But anyways, this aircraft carrier, suffice it to say, will stomp anything that comes in its way. And of course, it's not just the carrier alone. It has an entire fleet traveling with it. Every single aircraft carrier is a part of a task force, meaning that there are multiple cruisers, destroyers, and submarines that are accompanying it and traveling with it at every single day of the week. Every single time this thing is underway, there's an entire fleet following it and surrounding it. So this thing isn't alone. Of course, it's the flagship of the fleet and what gets all the pictures taken, but it is the one that means business, and there's a lot that goes with it. And right now, it's sitting somewhere at the port of Antalya, not that far away from the Black Sea. Some people say that it doesn't really mean anything. I say that means a lot, because the chances of that thing being in the area for no specific reason would be silly. It's just a few hundred miles away from the Black Sea. It's probably the closest an American aircraft carrier has made it to the Black Sea since the beginning of the war. And I think that is certainly going to really weigh in a good bit to the Russians when they're sitting there and thinking, I wonder if we should start to provoke the West. They'll look at that thing and go, nah, I think we're okay today. But anyways, moving on from the Gerald R. Ford and on up into Odessa, the Ukrainians have also been trying to do things in the Admiralty, I guess you could say, to try and improve their standing in the naval field. Ukraine has no navy. I don't even mean that as like an exaggeration. They really don't have a navy at this moment. They scuttled their only destroyer at the beginning of the war inside of the port of Mykolaiv because they were scared that Mykolaiv was about to be overrun and captured, so they didn't want the ship to fall into Russian hands. And so beyond that, they only have auxiliary ships, and they're incredibly small ones that are a part of the Ukrainian Navy. But for Ukraine to truly have almost a non-existent navy, they have probably been the most successful navy in existence. As far as their size compared to what they've been able to take out. They have knocked out multiple Russian ships, sank them to the bottom of the sea, or damaged them so badly they will most likely not be operational for the rest of the war due to massive repairs and refits. And the Ukrainians have started to really hone in on what's made them successful, which are those drone boats that we've seen slamming into Russian ships and just destroying them outright. And according to...
you're referencing Sea Baby?
I'm referencing the Baba Yaga of the sea, Sea Baby.
Oh, yes.
Oh, dude, you
love Sea Baby.
Dude, you go, oh, Sea Baby, and then Sea Baby goes, yeah. Kill that thing. But anyways.
Man, that baby doesn't sound like no baby. That sounds like a grown man.
Man, it's like one of those cartoons from the 40s from Looney Tunes where, you know, you hear in the pram, it's going, wah, wah, and then they lift the cover and it's some, like, mob boss guy smoking a cigar. You know,
hey,
that's...
what you looking at?
Hey, what are you looking at over there? Dude, that's literally Sea Baby, man. But the Ukrainians have actually, from news that's come out, they have created a specially designed brigade in the Ukrainian Navy to use the drone boats specifically. So their naval doctrine is starting to shift around them being the David of the David and Goliath story of the sea, and now they're starting to figure out how to really hone in on what is working for the Ukrainian Navy. And that is these drone boats.
Lord.
Good
You
Lord!
see that 5,550
Win it! $10,000! Hey, let's go!
Let's go!
Sugar, блядь!
Igor!
Igor! Oh, man, I'm telling you. Oh, man, I'm telling you. We're killing it tonight. Oh, man. Should we raise it another time? Oh, man, I'm telling you. That one's going to have to be a democracy. Run a poll on that. Oh, man, I'm telling you. Should we raise it again? Oh, I'm betting you. I'm
trying to
telling
do a currency conversion real quick. Give me just a second.
Oh, I'm telling you. Oh, man. We hit the freaking goal. That is unbelievable. Like, tonight, is truly a special night. We are blowing this thing out of the water.
Man, we're killing it tonight.
Man,
like, this is crazy. LSA's going crazy tonight.
Oh man, I'm telling you, we're killing it. Oh man, we're helping out so many people.
Let's see. I'm seeing a whole bunch of people speaking. A whole lot of folks are talking. Live chat's going insane right now, by the way, y'all. It's currently like 200 chats a minute. And Aaron Schuch said 20K goal. I don't know about that, man. A lot of people are shooting for 20K, though. A lot of y'all want to reach 20K. Man, you
Racy
put Rossi
goal again.
Rossi goal again. And we'll see.
Y'all know what I mean.
We'll give it a minute. But with that, we're going to be moving on from that amazing news inside the port of Odessa. And we're now going to be moving on into Russia. Y'all know that stupid things are about to follow, but that's what happens when we go into Russia. It's stupidity after stupidity after stupidity. But we have to cover it because it is important to the war and what's going on inside of Ukraine. So, with that, let's move on up into this little area here that's become quite famous, just north of the town of Tver, because news is coming out today of what happened to Priggy Boy. But before we get into what happened to Priggy Boy, we have to address what's been going on in the live chat. Hundreds of y'all have come out tonight. It's been absolutely incredible, and I was trying to find how to even describe this tonight. Hundreds of y'all have come out tonight and have supported this fundraiser. And our fundraisers have been, suffice it to say, losing a little bit of steam as the months have been going by. And people have been, of course, the war has kind of been waning out of some folks' attention, and so the support has become smaller and smaller. And we were wondering tonight, do people still care about Ukraine? And do people actually want to support and save the lives of folks in Ukraine? And through this fundraiser tonight, it is very clear, vividly clear, that the support for Ukraine is still alive and well, and as strong as it ever has been. And I've got to say, it's been amazing to see the Lee Spring Army back in its old form. The Lee Spring Army has always been blowing fundraisers away. Every single goal has always been reached. A goal has never failed to have been reached. And tonight we are going well above and beyond. It makes me proud to be the enforcer and the leader of the LSA. And not only that, it makes me absolutely proud to know that we have been able to do so much to help out Ukraine tonight as a community. Every single one of y'all have had a massive part in this. And I want to make sure that we can also recognize those who send in over $50. And y'all might be wondering, why in the world is it over 50? Why don't we recognize everyone? Well, YouTube actually doesn't allow us to collect the names of everyone. It just shows up in the live chat, and once the live chat scrolls up, they disappear. And so we don't get to have a list like we do with Super Chats where you can just scroll through and name everyone out. So Matthew actually has to physically collect each and every single one of y'all's names for us to be able to call it out. And to make that possible, we limit it to the folks who put in over 50. Also, there are so many of y'all that throw in support that is less than $50. Y'all range in the hundreds. And it would take forever to call all of y'all out, and it would also be impossible to name each and every one of y'all off. But I also want to thank y'all, because while y'all may throw in $5, $20, and $50, and some people tonight have been throwing in $500, every single bit means the same as far as this fundraiser goes. The $500 is a big thing, but at the same time, while there is a $500 donation, 50 people have thrown in $5 donations. And I got to thank every single one of y'all, whether we are able to call y'all out or not tonight, for helping out, because every single one of y'all make a difference and an impact in this war, and every single one of y'all I am equally proud of. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and the chat is flying at a rate of about 120 a minute, which is 3 times the legal minute, which is absolutely crazy fast. I'm trying to stall for just a second while I catch up slightly here. And we have 2 very good polls to address. They are very good polls. Questions I've never seen before in a long time, I would say. Excellent questions. And let's go ahead and move into our first poll, which says, Zelensky says allies stressed that Ukraine will lose support if it moves hostilities to Russia. And what are your thoughts? 34% said, I don't understand. Very dumb. 29% said, I understand and agree. 24% said, Ukraine got to keep that support, I guess. And 12% said, unsure. And I would be with the 24%. I think that it's important that Ukraine keeps the support no matter what. And if that means abstaining from striking inside of Russia, that'll just have to be the case, because Ukraine cannot survive without Western support. And that is the most paramount thing that Ukraine must prioritize first. And I think they will do so. It sounds like Zelensky's already made that pretty clear. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, whoa, what happened?
Oh, no. Hold on, I got to get caught up. Let's see, hold on just a second. All right, so It says Zelensky says allies stress that Ukraine will lose support if it moves hostilities to Russia.
Well, I don't know. I think they may. I don't really know. We'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see what happens because they're moving it there and they're using their own weaponry. I don't see them losing any support. But if they're using Western weaponry, I could easily see them losing support immediately, at least material support. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the second poll says Russia says it identified Prigozhin's DNA from the crash site, and do you believe them? It looks like 40% said yes, it's most likely true. It looks like 27% said it seems true, but I don't know. 20% said Russia is lying like usual, and 13% said unsure. And on this one, I really doubt the Russians have actually identified his DNA, but they are saying it, so that is what they are officially going to go with. So that is what it is. I don't believe them. And to be honest with you, that doesn't help me whatsoever in trying to clear up the whole situation. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I'm so busy trying to watch the live chat right now. It's really hard for me to even pay attention to the polls much. But can you reread it?
It says Russia has identified Prigozhin's DNA from the crash site, and do you believe them?
No, I don't, because I don't believe DNA tests are that quick. The crash just happened like 2 or 3 days ago, and now they're saying they have DNA proof that he was in it. He probably was in it, and he probably is dead, but that kind of DNA proof coming out that quickly, I'm doubting it for the most part. And so with that, hope that does address that fairly well. I was just told to listen up, so I'll be trying to keep an ear in a little bit more, and with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and real quick, let me grab a couple things out of the live chat here. Let's see here. We got one, got two, got
all right, and while
three.
He's doing that, we'll be filibustering here for a little bit, so hopefully we can get caught up. It is a very busy night tonight. So many of y'all are still throwing in massive amounts of support to the fundraiser, and we are currently up at $10.5 thousand. We are absolutely blowing this thing away, and hopefully we have the next bit ready. And so, do we?
Yes, we do. It's going so fast tonight, I'm really having a hard time keeping up. But anyways, let's move into our top donors of the night. And up first, we have to call out an anonymous donor who put in a $1,000 donation. We have no clue who they are, but obviously they know who they are. So big thanks to you for putting in that extremely generous donation and helping out Razom and supporting the fundraiser in 1/10 of the entire amount raised so far. We also have a $500 from Trister1, also massive donation, as well as a $500 from Power Ant, as well as a $333 from Hal Rose. Then we have a $250 from Naxus Fox, a $200 from Just Chillin', and then a $200 from DCC Prime 1, Repo Man 46, Trister1 yet again, and then we have one from Mr. Milla Ringer, I believe so. And then we have one from Reb21974. And then we have another 200 from Trister1. Good Lord. Then we have a 100 from Dion Yurchenko, Kyle Parkerson, some guy called the Enforcer. We have one from Alex Yurchenko, Dilly Dillinger, Hal Rose yet again. We have one from Jay Byrne, Dilly Dillinger yet again. Then we have a 100 from BC Skyman, Diz for Shiz. Then we have one from Bobby Ibarra, Eric Hutchins, Zoan Tran, Down to Earth, Plant Lady, Jack Ray, BC Skyman yet again. Then we have one from Mark, Incompetent Drone Operator. We have a 100 from Daniel Lee, Avari Manabratis, Gary Moore, Tim Swinson, Ben, Paramecium, Dad Good, Cindy Mitchell, Justice Ryan, Robert Swenson, Gene Kustra, Praise Adonai, Sarter, and M. Peacock. And that appears to be all of the top donors we have for the moment. Just scrolling through here to see if I missed any, and it looks like we might be good to go. And once again, big thanks to you all, even if we couldn't list your name out right now, for all donations, small and large, and they all add up to reach $10,704. So big old yeah! And Enforcer, what say you?
Oh, man, I'm telling you, I got to say a lot.
And I'm always trying to say a lot about fundraisers because it's amazing to see how big folks' hearts are when it comes to helping out folks in Ukraine. And it's something that is incredibly, it's truly, I say that a lot. It's truly, I say that a million times, but it's something absolutely unbelievable. It's unfathomable to think of how these fundraisers are able to succeed each and every single time they've run. It's truly unbelievable. And it's great to know that through this channel, we've been able to help out Ukraine in a massive way, thanks to each and every single one of y'all. And so thank you to every one of y'all tonight that has supported, both the folks we were able to call out and the hundreds of y'all that we weren't able to call out, because each and every one of y'all have had a massive help tonight on getting this fundraiser up to where it is. I already set the fundraiser goal even higher. It's now at $12,500, and we are currently at $10,750. So we have about $2,000 to go to reach the third goal of the night. And I gotta say, this is what this channel is for. We run 6 days a week, and out of those 6 days, only one of them is a fundraiser night. The other 5 of them, if you throw in a super chat, it helps this channel to keep on running. But every single day of the week is largely for this reason. While we do support ourselves and run it as a job, we run it continuously and keep everyone paying attention to the war 6 days a week, so that way everyone will always be around for Sunday fundraisers. It always keeps it fresh on your mind, considering that there's a show to come to almost every single night of the week, except for one day, and that's really why we run 6 days a week nonstop. I consider the fundraisers to be the biggest and most important thing that this channel does, and the impact is truly amazing. And we've never been able to see what the impact is, but I know that the folks over there in Ukraine have certainly been able to feel the impact of everything that the Lee Spring Army has been able to do. We've raised around $1.15 to $1.2 million at this point as a channel, and that has to be affecting something over there in the bigger picture as far as the war has been concerned, and that is thanks to every single one of y'all tonight. Y'all are amazing folks, and I've never seen a community that has been as kind both to us and to Ukraine as y'all have been. And so, thank you to every single one of y'all that we were able to call out and everyone that we weren't able to call out, because y'all have been a massive part of the Lee Spring Army. Y'all are the Lee Spring Army. Y'all are the true embodiment of it through and through. And even to the folks who aren't able to support in any kind of way, whether it be a super chat or a donation to a fundraiser, the folks who hit the like button and the folks who promote this stream and this channel to other people that they know, their friends, their family, all over social media, y'all help out in massive ways too, because y'all help folks to get here and to be able to know of this show, so that way they can also be an amazing part of this as well, and also hit the like button, and also help more people to know about it. And hopefully folks end up supporting because of that. And so thank you to every single one of y'all again. And with that, let's get on into the Morse code message of the night and some live chat questions.
All right, so moving into our Morse code decoders of the night, we have Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, and Paul Schultz, and also, I believe it was Tight Lines LSO, I believe. They're a new Morse code decoder, by the way. They said that Russian vodka do be hitting different when it's a Molotov, pun intended, and Soviet LSA and Slav Ukraine.
And that's the sound of money, and y'all got that right on the nail. That was the Morse code message of the night. Really good to see that y'all got it. And also, that Molotov do be hitting different when it's well, actually, that vodka do be hitting different when it's a Molotov. You know what I mean, Matthew? Like, getting a Molotov to the face is very different than drinking the vodka.
Oh, I'm telling you, one to the face the fastest way. Oh, man, the heater can't even do it that fast.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. And it especially hits more different than Romania. Oh, where's the 1099? Oh, man, I'm telling you.
I can't get off my face. Oh, goodness.
Oh, man. But anyways, with that, thank y'all for deciphering the Morse code message, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our first live chat question, or second, actually, we have one from Mad Machine, who says, do you think it's possible that Russia could start conscripting women to make up for the lack of military-aged men?
They did do that in the Second World War. It's entirely possible that they may do that now, but we haven't seen that happen yet. But it's not entirely impossible. So I hope that addresses that fairly well. And with that, I think we're on to the final question of this segment, and then we're going to be moving into the Russian news.
All right, and this one goes to James Post, who says, how much further in the south does Ukraine need to push to bring the land bridge to Crimea fully under their artillery?
Just 12 more miles. If they take Tokmak, the land bridge will be under artillery bombardment 24/7. So with that, I hope that does address that question fairly well. And we're now going to be moving on out of the question segment and on into Russia, because we have gotten more news today of what's been happening near the crash site for Prigozhin. Apparently, there was a little bit of foreshadowing to happen. I'll be getting to that right here. I will not be reading the translation tonight. I will just be letting y'all see the video and the subtitles.
Убейте меня. Но я не буду обманывать, я должен честно сказать, Россия стоит на грани катастрофы. Если сегодня не отрегулировать эти винтики, то самолет рассыпется в воздухе.
Ha! That was a little, I don't know if that's even foreshadowing. That just seems like it was like a Simpsons level prediction right here. But he said, it is better to kill me, but I will not lie. I must honestly say that Russia is on the verge of a catastrophe.
Well, he got his wish.
If today these screws are not adjusted, then the plane will fall apart in the air.
What the hell does that even mean?
I don't know, but they found out that his body apparently was in the wreckage. The Russians say that they were able to DNA test and find that out. We can see a picture of Nutsack right there. And I got to tell you, Matthew, I think we have to change his nickname now because it's no longer Nutsack. Considering that, he was charred in a horrible crash of a jet, I think he's roasted nuts now.
Oh, dear.
Oh man, I'm telling you.
I don't know about the laugh of that one or what.
Oh man, I'm telling you. He came out of that looking like roasted peanuts. Oh man, chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Oh man.
One thing's for sure, he's getting no respect. Oh man.
Oh man, he's living up to the Russian nutcracker. Oh man, I'm telling you. Oh man. But we know another guy who's cracking nuts. Oh man, but he's not in Russia. He's in Minnesota. Oh man, I'm telling you. Clip it, will you?
But anyways, moving on from
So is that all it took? The Russians also, that's all they had to do was go and loosen up a couple of bolts and nuts in the plane, and Prigozhin knew about it, and there you go. He's gone.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
That was it.
This was it. It's the end of the story. But moving on from that, while they were able to take care of one of their major problems, it appears that it just wasn't enough, Matthew. It wasn't enough, because we got proof today that that cemetery being covered over in one part of Russia is a reoccurring theme. In the city of Yekaterinburg today, we saw pictures of them literally erasing the Wagner from existence. This was a former Wagner cemetery near the city of Yekaterinburg. We've actually seen Prigozhin at this one before on film. And right now we can see some workers out there who are removing the crosses and covering the graves. They are going to make it as if the Wagner never even existed.
Is that like a polisher they got out too to like polish the concrete?
Yeah, man, they got to make that thing level. That's it.
Man, the Russians, they don't do nothing right, but when it comes to laying concrete, they're polishing that.
Man, oh man, I'm telling you.
But this is probably the weirdest thing that I've ever seen, is that leveler. It's like, there might be dead guys under here, but we got to level this thing, man. We got to get this thing level, blade. But anyways, of course, y'all can see they are desecrating even more graves throughout the entirety of the Russian Federation, and they are truly going to make the Wagner a thing of memory only. Moving on from that, while the Wagner might be disappearing in people's memory, the conscription officers are starting to appear in people's memory, and very recently. In the middle of a church service, well, a mosque service more so, a Russian commissar took to the front of the mosque and started a conscription speech. So here's his speech. This is in the mosque, by the way. They were in the middle of a prayer a moment ago, and this guy gets up and goes, "Let me tell you about today's sponsor, the Russian Federation." We heard him giving his speech. Unfortunately, I don't know exactly what he's saying, but we can see him wearing the commissar's uniform blade, which is some kind of a light blue shirt he wears as a laundromat owner. And we can see him continuing to talk to the folks about how they can join the army and what kind of benefits they'll get blade. I'm going to be ending this right here, because it's great and all to hear this guy talk, but I don't think any of us know what he's really saying. Beyond him,
that guy could be an auctioneer.
Man, he's about to start laying out that Patualia Dream or whatever that song is. But anyways, moving on from that, recruitment officer doing their thing in a mosque, mosquing it on up. And so with that, we're going to be moving on from the city of Omsk, and we're now going to be moving on back into Ukraine and on into the location unknowns. But before we do that, really quickly, I also have to address that President Zelensky is currently trying to make corruption during wartime equal to treason as far as the punishments are concerned and as far as the law is concerned, which is a fairly big deal. And really nice to know that he is still working on fighting corruption within Ukraine. And this is something that, of course, is a big thing that a lot of people bring up that are anti-Ukraine or pro-Russian, is that the Ukrainians historically have had a decent amount of corruption inside of their country. And in response to that, I actually have to say they're right. Ukraine has had a decent and considerable problem with corruption, and they've constantly been trying to fix this problem throughout their history ever since 1991. To better successes or worse success, they have been trying. And President Zelensky was actually elected inside of Ukraine on a major campaign policy to combat and rid Ukraine of the rife amounts of corruption that have been found within the country. And throughout the war, we've even seen him trying to combat this corruption even further. He has restructured the Ukrainian court system completely. That was a little bit earlier on in the war and something that wasn't really talked about much, but that is a major reform. And the court system in Ukraine now reflects one more so related to English common law than that of, I guess you could say, Soviet law and how the Soviet court system had been structured. They've also fired all of the commissars within Ukraine as well, which is how they were conscripting soldiers and also recruiting them as volunteers. Fired all of them due to rife corruption. And now we can see that he's trying to make corruption as a crime as serious as treason. And treason is one of the most serious crimes that one can commit during peacetime or wartime. And so it's great to see that Zelensky is currently still trying to combat corruption the best he can. And of course, I also have to say this as well about corruption in Ukraine. And while it is something that is serious and, and something that is a little bit more prevalent than others, it is not on a level of the Russian Federation. And that's one thing that you always see as a disconnect in between the pro-Russian supporters is how they think Russia is a completely non-corrupt country and how Ukraine is a hive of despotism. And I would have to say that is just absolutely silly, especially when you're comparing the two countries against each other directly, Russia versus Ukraine. Forget the rest of the world, forget the People's Republic of China, Japan, South Korea, Europe, North America, Africa, South America, everywhere in the world. Forget those places, just compare Ukraine and Russia. Russia obviously has more corruption. I mean, hell, you don't see government officials being shot down in Ukraine. You don't see that happening. You don't see that anywhere. People get fired sometimes for corruption, or sometimes because they brush the government completely the wrong way. That happens everywhere. But you don't see what happens in Russia where folks just die after they go against the government. That is clearly corruption. And also, a lot of people take for granted what corruption means in the Western world, because a lot of people are about to go, well, the United States is about as corrupt as any other country. Damn! Well, let me ask you this. In Russia, when the cops pull you over, you have, well, what do they do? Well, actually, no, let me start the opposite way around. When you get pulled over by a cop in the United States, do you have to pay him $500 on the spot or otherwise get pulled out of the car and beat senseless? No.
He's got to pay it later.
Yeah, you got to pay the ticket later. But usually that's to the city. That's not to the cop. Now, in Russia, if you get pulled over, it's pretty normal to have to pay the police officer personally a fee, so that way he doesn't beat the hell out of you when you get pulled over. You see,
oh, you mean when the mobster pulls you over? Like, yeah, the mobster, he's going to want probably, well, I guess like 1,000 rubles or more.
Yeah, something like that. But largely, one thing that people don't understand is that corruption in the West, in the concept of corruption, is completely different than corruption in Russia. Corruption in Russia exists on the personal level to where it's actually affecting citizens in their daily lives. You want to go to the Russian equivalent of the DMV? Well, you got to bribe someone. You want your kid to go to college? You got to bribe someone. You want your kid to get a good spot in the army? You got to bribe someone. Everything's a bribe. That's how the whole system works. That's not how it works in America. And I know some people are about to say, oh, Harvard, shut up. I'm not hearing that stupid crap. Harvard's a whole different thing. Harvard is a system where you have to be buddy-buddies with the people running the college. It's not something that's enforced by the government. So that's a totally different thing. I'm not even willing to hear that argument because it's just silly.
That might actually be changing these days from the sounds of it.
Well, I mean, that's a discussion for another time. But still, corruption is completely different in Russia than it is from the Western world. And it's also completely different in Ukraine as well, but not in a Russian way. And it's good to know that they are still working on fixing it. And hopefully the corruption will exist like in Western countries, more so on an abstract level than on a person-to-person, basis-to-basis level affecting the common citizenry. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little bit of news and on into the location unknowns. But before we do, we are at 11.5 thousand. We are $1,000 away from $12,500, which is the goal for tonight. We are incredibly close. And I have to remind you all that we have to reach $12,500. That goal was set. And the Lee Spring Army never misses a goal. Ever. This will be the final goal of the night, however. We will not be raising it beyond $12,500 because I can't ask more of y'all. We've already done amazing tonight, even getting to 11.5. 12.5 will be absolutely incredible, but I highly encourage y'all to support the fundraiser and to get us on over the top for the third time of the night because it is going to greatly help the folks over there in Ukraine that are relying on Razom for support, either medical or humanitarian. Moving on from that and on into our location unknowns, we got to see that a new kind of drone has entered the field on the side of Ukraine. Germany provides Ukraine with the RQ-35 Hadron reconnaissance drones as part of a new aid package. And we can see that drone right here. The Ukrainian army will receive 40 of these drones designed for surveillance at a distance of up to 30 kilometers. The Hadron is small and light. It can be carried by one soldier and launched offhand. The key advantage is its resilience in conditions of saturation of electronic warfare interference, meaning that it's less susceptible to jamming. The cruising speed is 16 meters a second, which I don't even know how to translate that into normal speed, with a flight duration of up to 2.5 hours. And we see it in flight right there. And with that, that's the end of that little clip, but great to see that Germany is once again wilding out there. And, you know, it reminds me, Matthew, of a time when Germany was really considered to be on top of their weapons game. Geschlägt for Lightning, but I'm just kidding, everyone. They're doing a great job. But anyways, moving on from that, we also got to see a Ukrainian soldier laying down some fire with an M2 50 caliber machine gun. America's finest piece of work. Check it out. There it is. The beautiful 50 cal. It is a gun for the ages. One that will never be forgotten, and one that will probably be used until firearms like this become obsolete, most likely. And just listen to that thing go. I can already hear my eardrums being decimated by the raw sound of this thing in this bunker. Now see them lining it up again and firing. When you see the outside world is continuously shaking. And also, Mark said, does it keep jamming? Yes. 50 calibers are a little quirky that way. If you fire very small bursts like this guy is doing, they tend to jam pretty easily. What's funny is that most people think that machine guns are kind of supposed to be fired in small controlled bursts, and some of them are designed that way. For example, anything revolving around the MG42 is usually smaller bursts that are very accurate and pinpoint. But with the 50 caliber, you're really supposed to hold that thing down and let it rip. It's a machine gun, as the meme goes. So he is firing it a little wrong. That's why we're seeing the technical difficulties. Like that right there. You see how he fired 2 rounds and it jammed? You gotta like fire at least 5 rounds through this thing, and then it won't jam. It'll be cycling properly. See right there? Hang on. Did y'all see that? That's a perfect example of it. Listen. He fired 9 rounds right there. He stops, then fires 2, and he let go of the trigger, and then it jammed again. You gotta fire some pretty heavy bursts with this thing to make sure that it is able to cycle the ammunition properly so you don't end up getting jams like that. See, you did another 2-round burst, it jammed again. Look at that. Man, he finally got the idea. It's a machine gun. Just listen to that raw American firepower. And look at that. Some people were saying that the headspace was getting worn out. No. He was firing at small bursts. You fire that thing, you just hold it down, it will work like a sewing machine every single time.
Красава. Вот так надо, блядь. Заебись.
With that, that's the end of the clip, but great to see that 50 cal in action. Moving on from that and into our last little clip, we also got to see the Russian casualty report over the past 24 hours. And Matthew,
oh, they got 4 Bobcats. What in the world? Let's go.
Man, the building is on fire. But anyways, 4 Bobcat skid steers have been destroyed over the past 24 hours. Absolutely incredible. And the losses in every other category has also been absolutely incredible. Absolutely wonderful to see. And so, Moving on from that, we also got to see 550 Russian soldiers were liquidated over the past 24 hours. Quick, everyone, point and laugh. We got to give ammunition to the other guy so he can make content. Moving on from that, we also saw that 15 armored personnel carriers have been destroyed. 31 supply trucks had also been destroyed as well. 6 tanks were wiped out. 24 artillery
we
systems.
had goal.
What?
We had goal.
Oh, no. We still have like 500 to go. Like, we still,
What?
like, yeah, it's $12,036.
Oh, damn.
We have a goal of
Wait a minute.
12.5.
Yes, somebody. There's 2 or 3 people in the chat said goal, and I thought we'd hit it. Come
haven't-
on, man.
We haven't hit goal yet, y'all. It is the final stretch. There is $450 left. We just have to get that $450, and we will have reached the 3rd goal of the night. So,
Man, I got faked.
so
Come
everyone,
on.
so everyone, calm down, everyone. Calm down. We got to just reach $450 more, and we will have reached the goal. So we haven't reached it yet, but we're getting there. We are getting there. 31 supply trucks were destroyed, along with 6 tanks, 24 artillery systems, while my voice is completely strained, 11 drones, 2 MLRSs, and 1 anti-aircraft warfare unit. All in all, a pretty good day, and wonderful to see that the Ukrainians were able to inflict considerable casualties onto Russian forces. Moving on from that and on into the area of northeastern Ukraine, we also got to see a small clip of a Ukrainian soldier showing off his drone jamming gun. And you know what? I know tonight, y'all, is a special order X001, which is... Oh! Wait a minute! Hold up! Mark just threw in a 250, and we're
not at goal.
We are not at goal yet. We are still 300 away. But, man, that's getting us on up there. And thank you, Mark, for the support. And so, moving on from that, here is this Ukrainian soldier showing off his Halo-style anti-drone gun.
А ну, тік-ток війська. Хто знає, що це за приколюха на війні? Для чого вона надо?
That actually looks pretty cool, really.
Man, that thing looks kind of wild, man. He's like, so this is my gun. You expect this thing to like fire a laser nearly with how it looks.
It looks like they're holding basically like a cell phone tower in their hands.
Hold up.
You know, like those antenna things, like on the side of the cell phone tower.
Oh! We did it! We hit the goal! Dude, we did it! We reached 12.5! Let's go! We've done it! Good God, my throat is done. The vocal cords are shot. We've even hit $13,000. Good Lord! Oh my word, that is crazy. And I gotta thank y'all so much for reaching 13.2 now. Like, we've almost gone another 1,000 over the goal. Good Lord, we finally did it. We just hit the goal, the 3rd one of the night. We are now at 13.2 thousand, and that is it. The Lee Spring Army has delivered tonight. The Lee Spring Army is stuff of legends. We're hitting them with that invincible and legendary. You know what I mean, Matthew?
Yeah.
Yes. We're hitting them with that freaking invincible and legendary blade. Absolutely amazing. And absolutely incredible to see that we've been able to reach such a high goal tonight. We are going to be helping out so many people in Ukraine by reaching that goal, and each and every one of y'all had a massive part in that. I also have to give a special thanks to Jack Ray, because while everyone has thrown in massive amounts of support tonight, Jack Ray's $300 donation was the one that sent us over the final goal of the night. Absolutely amazing. And a huge thanks to everyone. And we'll, of course, be calling out everyone that we haven't called out yet. We won't be doing it in a mean way, though. We'll be doing it in a very nice way. Thanking you all for supporting this fundraiser, because every single one of y'all, even the folks that aren't Jack Ray, who went right over the top, all of y'all were a massive part in getting it there, so Jack Ray could be the one to send it over the top. But absolutely incredible, and also great to see this anti-drone gun. Moving on from that, and a little bit further down the lines, and into the area of Kremenna, we also got to see another Russian tank get destroyed today by a drone. And so, the video is loading, and here's the clip. We can hear them having a little chit-chat. That actually came out so wrong. It was supposed to be like a little chit-chat, but then I said chit-chat. So we're going for a PG-13 rating tonight. But we can see the T-72B3 right there.
Короче, там розгорається. Поганий настрій сьогодні. А як хорошо. Да, якраз ми тут жахнули.
And we can now see the fire coming through the top of the hatch. We can now see...
О, сука! Ебать!
They have gone to mutual blade.
Я не буду придется я эти майка ду.
Це хтось сотки знімає, може попросити них якісне відео.
Well, I guess you could say that the Russian soldiers that are inside of that tank have shit their pants.
Красиво.
But anyway, so you see the
Башня
smoke
дірвала.
coming from the tank.
Може воно ще не прилетіло? Ні, на місці.
Wonderful. I love to see it. Have you ever wanted a Russian tank to smoke up in your backyard? Well, I'm telling you, folks, it's absolutely incredible to watch one turn into a rotisserie chicken right on your front porch. Introducing the all-new Ukrainian drone bomblet. It's able to pierce right through the top of the tank's turret, right down to the ammunition, and cause a catastrophic ammunition fire that sends folks sky high and the tank roasting. And so absolutely great to see, and I always got to remind y'all to point and laugh, because that is what we do on this channel. Anything that helps out the Ukrainian citizens in saving themselves from the Russian invaders is something that we're always going to cheer on each and every day of the week. And so make sure to get your mandatory giggle in as we saw that tank burn like a crisp. Moving on from that clip and on into the next one, into the northern area of Bakhmut, we also got to see that some drones were dropping bombs on the Russian forces up in this area. Check it out.
100 метрів до Бехі.
This was done by the K2 battalion.
Найдіть, будь ласка, цю БМП, яка одинока в полі стоїть.
От, бачу групу.
Так, групу підарасів бачу. Все, бачу.
Here we can see the drone spotting a Russian vehicle out there in the field, and also a small squad of Russians moving through the underbrush. We can also hear this ominous electrical sound in the background that's making me think they need to call an electrician or something similar.
Не спіши, не спіши. Так, хлопці, бачу групу, я над групою. Та це ми,
Це нас чують.
це я над ними, ми над ними. Ще вперед, ще.
Я бачу.
Плюс, бачу, зараз я над ними зависну і скоро.
We can now see them moving up onto the Russians, adjusting their camera to look downwards, and they're getting ready to hit this entire squad right where they're sitting.
Камеру по 90 вниз. Вперед.
Вперед, вперед.
Одно огонь.
The Ukrainians are about to be hitting them with that invincible and legendary as they start to carpet bomb the squad, wiping out half of it in the first volley.
Лечу до нас.
Gotta love those sound effects.
Man, you gotta love them, they bustin'! Barry Woodward said it's copyrighted music, and that's okay. That's alright. We'll let ads run. That's fine.
Назад вліво. Да, прямо на них вибиваємо, блядь, ці. Оце єдиний виход підарас.
Заходжу на них.
What does the eraser button do at the top?
Оцього доганяю.
Man, that'll wipe a bastard out.
I'm gonna just rub them out of existence.
Dude, you just see like a 1940s hand in like black and white come onto screen with one of those like block erasers and just go. You just see one of them just disappear off the camera after that. Here we can see the Russians are about to get hit a second time. Watch them get slammed. That's another 3 of them. Call this Ukrainian a bowler because he's getting a strike. We need
Isn't there a thing called a turkey in bowling?
I think there is.
Like that's when you hit all the pins, I think. Turkey.
That's when Erdogan sends you a Bayraktar for an airstrike.
Hey, Turkey!
Hey, Turkey! A huge shout out to the Turks. If we have any Turks watching, I think your country's really neat. But anyways.
Ну мені як по відео, то 4 лежить.
Super Action General said, "Damn, son, where'd you find this?"
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Yeah, baby, let's go. Give me a yeah. Give me an oink oink.
Man, you're going too far now.
Man. But we can see them now flying the throne away. Of course, having
Well,
white...
Uzala said turkey bastard. Or baster, I think. Whoops.
Yeah, that was a turkey baster, man. You're not a turkey bastard.
I thought he was like taking a shot at turkey for a minute, but never mind.
Man, that's something a redneck would say, wouldn't it? Man, hang on. I'll be 1 second. I'll be right back.
Наштурмували підараси, блядь. Штурмовик уйобаний.
Man, if you say that line, you gotta sit there and go, that damn turkey bastard!
Oh, jeez, man. Put that away. Come on.
Put the cookie down.
Три уверх втекло.
Also, really quickly, while we see the drone continuing to fly over the field, I just saw the historic Tasmanian said, I cannot donate. Based off of your name, it sounds like you're within the nation of Australia. Unfortunately, some countries don't have the ability to donate to YouTube fundraisers through YouTube Give. Some countries don't allow it, and Australia is one of them. If you would like to donate tonight in the spirit of the Sunday fundraiser, we do have a link in the description below that goes directly to United 24, which is Ukraine's government organization that collects funds directly for the Ukrainian government, so that way they can distribute it for drones, body armor, such things like that. There is a link in the description below for that for everyone who can't support due to regional restrictions, so I hope that helps out Historic Tasmanian.
Напиздував. Красавчик.
Of course, it won't add to the total for the Lee Spring Army's fundraiser, but your support always matters. And regardless whether it goes through our fundraiser or through United 24, it is helping out Ukraine in a major way. And with that, that's the end of that clip, and great to see the K2 battalion hitting some Russians. Moving on from that, we're now going to be moving on down to the area of Krasnopolivka, where we saw the 30th Brigade firing on the Russians with their armor. It was really cool, by the way. Check it out. You can see their tank rolling down the road. We now see them taking a little bit of a left. Man, call this tank Karl Marx, because it'd be taking a hard left. Oh! I'm just kidding, everyone. I'm just kidding. What?
That sounded vaguely political.
No, it's not. It's theory, Matthew. It's 19th century political theory. It's within the realm. I could say something like that. It's a loophole.
Karl Marx was the guy that said Zeke.
No. No. Karl Marx was the guy talking about seizing the means of production. When you see the tank speeding on along, this thing is booking it. Dude, they put that nitrous in that thing. When you see it's fired off its smoke grenades right there. We can hardly see them, though. Man, Eric Wine Nelson said political, and also no, it's not meant to be political in any way, shape, or form. I was just making a joke right there because I was thinking of that NASCAR thing where they'll, it's a whole thing. It's not political though.
Oh man, you got to go to something else political.
Man, I'm telling y'all, it's not political. Oh man, I'm telling you, it's not. It's just a joke. It was just a prank, bro. Listen, it was just a prank. I'll try and level it out a little bit, but I'm not gonna do it a lot. So. Take it for what you will. But anyways, we're getting back to the clip. You can see the tank continuing to roll on. And 420 said, is this live war footage? No, because there were mostly going to be a lot of stream sniping happening because of that. Literally. Like, there would literally be stream sniping happening. We now see the tank moving on up and getting ready to fire. And you know something, Matthew? This is the first-person view from that video we saw the other day from the 30th Brigade from the drone. This is one of those tanks because they're at that road.
Really? Yeah, I thought it looked familiar, but I really couldn't tell from the ground.
You know what? So many of y'all enjoyed this last night. I'm actually going to play a song while this clip runs, and it's going to be the same one we played last night, that Forward Kamas song, because so many of y'all liked it and thought it was really neat. I'll play a little bit of it for y'all as this clip goes, so that way there's a little bit of music in the background. It's not copyrighted. We found that out because last night's stream wasn't copyrighted for it. I think it was copyrighted for something else, actually. But with that, we're going to let the music play. So... So now you can see the tank backing up from the street. It appears it's trying to assess a target. And now we can see it firing.
There once was a little Russian.
And there are these blitz. We now see the tank reloading and reacquiring its target and firing again.
Ни взрывы, ни пули не остановят нас. Мы с трассы не свернули вперед.
This guy could pass as a Spanish singer, I guarantee you.
He kind of can, yeah. Dude, this is a song that the Russians sing every time they lose a Kamaz. That song is sung every 2 minutes or so.
This fella's singing is ready to flip sides at any moment. He can be Spanish or Russian at any second.
And Gadzuk said, Ukrainian cowboy song? No, it's actually from the Soviet era. So, you know, it kind of passes the mark for me because it could have been, this guy could have been from anywhere in the Soviet Union.
На тех местах лихие парни без подмоги вступали в бой и молча падали от пуль. Но ни взрывы, ни пули не остановят нас. Мы с трассы не свернули вперед.
Man, this tank, I forgot how this thing was laying it down the other day on the drone footage. Because this thing is laying down fire as soon as it reloads. We now see them rolling back up again.
Ни взрывы, ни пули не остановят нас. Мы с трассы не свернули вперед.
Блядь, it's another one lost!
Выполним во что бы то ни стало. У нас на каждого в запасе 10 жил. В конце дороги, правда,
We now see the tank traversing a little bit and picking a new target, it seems.
Damn, some people are roasting the hell out of this song. This song sucks 1000%. Dang!
Some people really like it, but some people are really hating it.
It is a Russian song after all.
Well, it's more so Soviet. It was made during the Soviet Union, so we don't know if the singer is Tajik or Kazakhstani or Russian or Ukrainian. We don't know who he is.
Сердца шатают, когда дома отдохнем, но пока ни взрывы, ни пули не остановят нас. Мы с трассы не свернули вперед. Ползет КамАЗ. Ни взрывы, ни пули не остановят нас. Мы с трассы не свернули вперед. Ползет КамАЗ.
And that's the end of the song, but it's a pretty good one. At least in my opinion, I don't think it's bad.
It's not bad.
And now we can just hear the sounds of the jet turbine and this T-80 going to work. And actually there was a good question. Why does the tank keep on backing up and moving forward? Well, it's just largely a part of a tanker's training that when they fire, they're supposed to reverse, probably to try and get behind a berm or disengage, and then once they reload, they roll back up to pop off the shot. So that way they're not sitting still and just an easy target to hit. And also, Daniel, that's why I'm totally fine with the song, because Ukraine was also a part of the Soviet Union as well, so for all we know, that guy could have been Ukrainian. He could have been anyone. He could have been from the Baltics. He could have been from the Stan series nations. May have been a Russian.
He could have been from Spain.
Yeah, he may have been from anywhere. Like, he may have literally been from anywhere. And apparently something just hit the camera right there. Don't know what happened to the camera. But when you hear the tank still, oh, the camera got knocked around because of the recoil from the gun. So, that's what happened. Damn, dude, they playing that World War II music at the end. They went, but anyways.
That's that Vietnam picture, isn't it?
Yeah, that is, man. You'd be sitting there, man, it's terrible to grill. But anyways, moving on from the northern flank and on into the southern flank of Bakhmut near Andriivka, we also saw Ukrainian forces continuing to move in this area. I'm scared of copyright. I may have played forward Kamas all the way, but I'm still scared of copyright. We can see the montage of Ukrainian forces operating, specifically the 3rd Brigade, in the southern flank of the battlefield. And it's largely just a montage, but still a really cool one. And also, Mark, you are correct. That tank was firing so quickly that as soon as the barrel was restabilized after reloading, they were already putting out the next shot. They were wearing that barrel out for sure. That barrel is probably roasting hot. Oh, speaking of roasting, speaking of roasting, I think we just saw one guy get turned into roasted bits.
E.
Yep, yeah. E.
Minced.
We can see a couple of Russians moving on out. The Ukrainians are going to move them on to the other side, and it appears that they did that to one of them. And number two, maybe. Oh, yep, number 2. There we go. And so with that, that's the end of that clip. But of course, very nice to see. With that, we're now going to be moving on out of the Bakhmut area and further on down the line towards Marinka, where we got to see the 55th firing off their artillery pieces, specifically the Caesar. I think it had music. Yep, it did. But we can see their Caesar firing right here. And of course, the Caesar SPG is an amazing self-propelled gun from France.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hello there.
What is that, a computer or something?
Yeah, that's the computer screen that operates the gun. Dude, if it's pitch black at night, your battery commander says, "Hey, what's this over here?" And you look over from that screen and go, "What? I'm blind. I can't see."
Man, that's like putting off radiation so bright.
Dude, if you stood near that thing, you would hear like a microwave coming off that thing. It's too freaking bright. But anyways, moving on from that, now the Marinka area, and moving on towards Volodar, we also got to see a Russian unit was hit pretty hard today by a drone in this area. Like, Zoink Scoop, I think our OP isn't safe. Ruh-roh, Raggy, drone attack. And here it comes. Here it comes, folks. And right into their outpost, right there. Poof, right inside. Perfect shot. Can't miss that kind of stuff. And then there's the end card, the famous end card. Moving on from that and out of that area, we're now going to be moving on into the area of the village chain. Because the Ukrainians fired off some Hydra rockets in this area today from an Mi-24. It was really cool. Check it out. Would you? Well, did you? That's the kind of music that's not really in my ballpark. The dog music. That's it, dude. When you're walking by a fence at night and the pit bull comes out.
Man, that is some angry, like trap rap remix music.
And also, I love the painting on the side of this Mi-24. They went for the babushka's quilt on the side of this thing. It looks really good, actually. And we see this guy is in the zone, and he's about to tilt on up and fire off those rockets. There he goes, and there he goes firing the rockets. And now he's going to take that hard left turn back down towards the floor as he gets on out of there. And with that, that's the end of the clip, and great to see. We're moving on from that one and towards the area of Robotyne, where we saw the 36 Marines were continuing to push on forward around Zaitova Bajanya. Classic. Dude, that's literally what plays at the beginning of this, Matthew. I am Marco Pierre White, and welcome to my masterclass. But anyways, I'm going to mute that now. That's actually fit perfectly. But anyways, there's an explosion in the distance, of course, from the 36th Brigade. It appears that they're using their Miklicks to lick mix. And we can see where the mine clearing charge went off right there. You can also see the wire hanging in the trees right there.
Oh, look, a little trailer.
All right, hit it. And there goes the next Miklick. I think that was actually from the trailer. And they laid it down in the trees, and I feel like that tree line's about to disappear. And any second now. And, oh, there we go.
A little shockwave off that. Look at the trees, like, flying around.
Man, those trees, man, were like a freaking tree in a hurricane blade. And now you can see
the whole truck's turning away.
Dude, I like how the truck just watches the explosion. And they're like, okay, hit it, and then as the trailer starts rolling away again, they're like, all right, mission done, and the forest is gone. Well, at least that tree.
The navigation said, make a U-turn now. They're turning around. Oh, bliat, go straight to the trees. Go faster. Oh, put the smoke. Oh, they were running coal, bliat.
And it looks like they're going to fire off another charge in the same spot, and there it goes. We're getting a more of a top-down view on this one this time. And it's about to clear out another part of this tree line. And there went the shockwave. You can see the shockwave very good in that angle. And there he goes again. They said, make a U-turn. Put it in the gas, please. Go, damn it. So you see them getting on out of there. And there it goes, out on its way. Really nice to see them using those Western-provided M58 Mikuleks. Moving on from that and into our last clip from the area, we also got to see that some Russians will be missing in action for a while. For a good while, as a matter of fact. That down there is an unmarked grave for several Russian soldiers. Who's gathering them? The Russians themselves. This is a bit of a scam that the Russians have actually been conducting for quite some while inside of Ukraine, is that whenever some Russian soldiers die, they'll pack them in body bags and bury them in unmarked graves, so that way they never are able to pay out benefits to their family. And you see them tossing them on in with almost no respect whatsoever for them.
Oh man, I'm telling you, they get no respect around here.
As this World War II music plays in the background. But anyways, with that, very interesting to see, and once again, we can see the Russians are attempting to not pay out benefits whatsoever. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little area in the lines, and we're now going to be moving on over to Novikakhovka, because we saw that an entire column of the 205th Motorized Rifle Brigade appears to have been severely damaged today in a strike. One Yodel Demish that one will not be going forward anymore. That's the one that they'll start singing the song for here in a bit. We can't see how damaged that one is up towards the front. And we can see that the rest of the convoy has also been brought to a grinding halt as well, due to the attack.
Hey, we had 14,000 flat.
What?
$14,000. Let's go.
Your eardrums. Let's go. We hit
14,000. Where'd you find that?
Damn.
Trapaholics.
Damn.
Walk with your boys.
Damn.
We make it look easy.
Damn, son. Well, when am I going to get my line up? And damn, son, where'd you find this? And also, Matthew, let's do it at the same time. 3, 2, 1. Trapaholics.
I didn't know what you're about to do. Yeah, tell me what we were doing.
Man, well, let's do it again. 3, 2, 1. Trapaholics.
Alcoholics.
Alcohol. Apparently, that's a big deal with attorneys, from what I've been told. Is that a good amount of them are alcoholics? I didn't know that. I guess I'll have to pick up a new hobby. But anyways, moving on from that now to Novikakhovka. We also got to see that a Gyansin was hit inside of the Olesky Sands. And so here's the clip. And there's the Chad music, of course. Chad music ensues. We can see the Russians apparently know what's coming. Run, Bliet! Oh my lord. They were pretty smart that time, because that round literally landed on the artillery piece. Not near it, but on it. And there is the Gyansant, and now we get a little epileptic fit near the end. Gee, thanks.
Why'd they do that?
Dude, that actually made me feel like I was about to seize up there, literally. And I'm not an epileptic, but whenever I see that stuff and I say those kinds of comments, I actually kind of mean that seriously, because that crap gives me headaches when I see stuff like that. So if any of y'all happen to be epileptic, I'm so sorry for that, because we don't know that stuff's coming around when it does. But anyways, with that, We're going to be moving on now that my eyes feel like they can't process anything. And we're now going to be moving on up to Kyiv to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 550 of the war. And so, without further ado, here is the speech from yesterday. There's got to be one for today. Wait, hang on. It looks like there is one from today. Actually, a few of them from today. But it's not the one that's featured. So, we're going to pick this one. Is this one from today?
I wish you...
It is. It is. See, 27.
Hey, look, it's Marco Pierre White in the suggestions. Did
yeah,
you see that?
that's yeah. I was actually watching something about him earlier about the North stockpot stuff and everything. That's why I brought him up earlier, is because he was still on my mind, fresh on my mind. Kind of like like that one clip, Matthew, where he said, "Turn the cameras off. I'm very well controlled. You don't know what I can do." Have you ever seen that one? Man,
I think so.
Dude, that guy, he knows what he's doing a little bit, but he's unhinged, man. Like he's on the edge. But anyways. Here is the speech. And also, it's only 4 minutes and 50 seconds long. But hey, here we go.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, українки. По завершенню цього тижня, ще одного тижня нашої української сили, час підбити підсумки. Підсумки нашої з вами вдячності тим українцям і українкам, які за минулі 7 днів відзначились найбільше у захисті життя та України. Наші воїни, наші рятувальники. Солдат Ярослав Бевс, воїн 47-ї окремої механізованої бригади, один з перших у складі штурмової групи, зайшов та закріпився в Роботиному на Запоріжжі. Саме він повернув український прапор на розбиту росіянами школу у цьому селі. Дякую, Ярославе. Дякую усім твоїм побратимам, усім іншим нашим воїнам різних звань, з різних підрозділів, хто робить усе можливе, щоб наш прапор був на усіх своїх законних місцях, на усій території нашої держави. Наші бойові медики, дякую за ваш героїзм, за кожне врятоване життя наших бійців. Сьогодні відзначу солдата Яну Хвостікову, санітара лікувального відділення медичної роти, та молодшого сержанта Тетяну Святець, медичну сестру 47-ї бригади. Дякую вам. Солдат Данило Марущак, командир танка із 53-ї окремої механізованої бригади, воює на околицях Авдіївки. Сміливо воює та влучно. Дякую. Старший матрос Олександр Носаль, 37-ма окрема бригада морської піхоти. Дякую за відважність, Олександре. Молодший сержант Володимир Макаревич, оператор дронів, дуже результативний. 46-та окрема аеромобільна бригада. Дякую, Володимире, за кожне влучання. Старший лейтенант Володимир Фомін, воїн-артилерист 36-ї окремої бригади морської піхоти. Дякую за системне і потужне знищення окупантів. Наші спецпризначенці, молодший лейтенант Ярослав Ращупкін, старший сержант Семен Денисенко, молодший сержант Сергій Болотний. Хлопці діють на півночі нашої держави, захищають Україну від російських диверсантів. Дякую вам за ваш захист нашої Сумщини. Окремо я хочу відзначити воїнів, які захищають українців від шахедів. Дякую кожному і кожній. А особливо відзначу старших солдатів Олену Климову, Олександра Кияшка, солдата Віталія Вовлошина. Дякую вам за злагодженість дій та успішне ураження цілей. Наші рятувальники, працівники ДСНС із різних регіонів України, зокрема Одеська область. Ті, хто брав участь в ліквідації наслідків атак терористів на критичну інфраструктуру. Головні майстер-сержанти служби цивільного захисту Михайло Шишман та Петро Станков, майор служби цивільного захисту Валентин Салі. Дякую вам. Дніпропетровська область. Головні майстер-сержанти служби цивільного захисту Максим Веклич та Ігор Тарасенко, старший лейтенант служби цивільного захисту Сергій Макаренко. Особисто евакуювали поранених з будівлі зруйнованого автовокзалу в Дніпрі після російського удару та врятували людину з-під завалів. І це лише один із епізодів їхньої роботи. Я дякую за порятунок українців. Запорізька область. Дуже важкий напрямок. Сержанти служби цивільного захисту Олександр Цигипа та Сергій Панченко. Дякую вам, хлопці, за роботу в Оріхові. Сержант служби цивільного захисту Євгеній Пузанов та капітан служби цивільного захисту Олег Новохатька, дякую. Обидва відзначились роботою у місті Гуляйполе після російських обстрілів, врятували життя. І сьогодні без імен, без деталей, але є за що відзначити наших розвідників та спецслужбовців. Особовий склад ГУР та СБУ увесь. Дійсно молодці. Пишаюся нашими воїнами, пишаюся нашим народом. На тижні, як і завжди, будуть засідання ставки, порядок денний вже визначено. Зокрема, будуть рішення, які дозволяють нам ще посилити наших воїнів, військовому командуванню активніше готувати інфраструктуру для нових українських літаків, дипломатам активніше просувати в комунікації із партнерами все те, що потрібно саме нашим воїнам. В кожному із підрозділів запити дуже чіткі. Саме такими мають бути і результати української дипломатії. Слава усім, хто захищає Україну та українців. Слава Україні!
And Horom Slava. And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky, and that is going to be bringing us on into the second part of the stream. The halftime show is over, but before we move into it, I've got to thank every single one of y'all so much once again for getting this fundraiser on to $14.1 thousand. Absolutely, man, hit it again. Man, that time it almost went static. Like it went, I was like, oh, dude, that's not good. But still, absolutely amazing. And I have to thank each and every single one of y'all so much for helping out this fundraiser and getting it to where it is. It's absolutely been unbelievable. And I've said this so many times now, and I say this so much. And I want to come up with, and I always think, trying to think of new ways to say thanks, and usually it falls short. I'm usually saying the same thing over and over. Y'all know I'm incredibly astounded and amazed and completely blown away by what y'all have been able to do to help out Ukraine. Much like Ukraine has stood as an undefeated country to this very minute in this war, the Lee Spring Army has stood as an undefeated army on the internet that has been able to reach every single fundraiser goal that has been set in front of it and every single challenge that has ever reached its, I guess you could say reached its reach. That sounds stupid, so we're going to be working on better words for that one in the future. But thank you to every single one of y'all once again. Y'all have done amazing. And also, someone just said it's up to $14,105, and it is exactly $14,105. Just about $895 short of $15,000. Regardless, I know a lot of people wanted to reach $15,000, but I have to remind everyone again that our fundraisers have only been reaching about $7,000 to $8,000 on average for nearly the past month and a half every single week. And this fundraiser reached $14.1 thousand. That is twice as large as most of the fundraisers we've usually been able to run and hit goals for over the past month and a half. And I've got to thank every single one of y'all because y'all have done massive efforts to support these fundraisers and to help the folks over there in Ukraine. And we are so honored that y'all have decided to do it through this channel. And so thank y'all all so much once again. And with that, we are now going to be moving on into the next part of the stream. So Matthew, take it away.
All right, so moving into our final question and poll segment of the night, we first have to call off the top donors since the last time we called them off. And up first, we have a $300 donation from Jack Ray, as well as a $300 from Reb21974, as well as a $250 from Mark. We also have a $100 from Trister1 Sturmeyer, Trister1 yet again. Then we have a $100 from Dark Warrior 137, Alex Yurchenko, Mike G, Kenby7XI. Then we have a $50 from Alex Yurchenko, a $50 from Alex Brown, Mike Smith, David Robinson, Kristen Adams, Brian Rink, John Potts, Justice Ryan, Kells CSC08, Axel K, Reactor Bob, and Cliff H. And for some reason, that list was a lot longer than I remember it being, so I must have lost track. But thank you all once again for the very generous donations to Razom, and it is definitely making a big difference. And seriously, big thanks to you all. I know it sounds kind of like it's a canned speech at this point, but really, it is amazing that we can get on here at Sunday night and simply raise this much money pretty much every single Sunday. It's absolutely astonishing, and I love to see it. And a big thanks to the LSA for making it happen. Enforcer, what say you?
You know what's crazy, Matthew, is that the amount that's been fundraised tonight, to put it into scale, I think that is about the that's about the same cost as tuition for a semester is.
Actually, a little bit under.
Yeah, a little bit under, but still, that's huge when you think about it in actual scale. What has been raised right now is about the price of a really good used car. Like, you know, like, this is absolutely incredible. And I think it's amazing to know that we've been able to fundraise so much tonight. And I got to thank everyone who was called out, call them out, and also everyone who wasn't called out, because every single one of y'all have done massive efforts to help out this channel, and not only our channel, but to also help out these fundraisers specifically, and to help out the folks over there in Ukraine. And so thank you to each and every single one of y'all so much once again. And also, Mickey S. said, don't neglect the anonymouses. You got several $50 anonymous drops. Sadly, we usually have to drop them because
they're anonymous.
Yeah, about the thing about calling folks out is that we can call them out by name and let everyone in the Leaf Spring Army know who were massive contributors to the fundraiser and who is helping out. And when they're anonymous, we can't do that. So we end up just with this like giant total for the anonymous viewers, but we can't really like appropriate the thanks to an individual. So we usually end up not able to call them out. If y'all want them to be called out, make sure to not put it in anonymously. Let folks know who you are. Let us be able to thank you personally for helping Ukraine out, because we love to do that. That's why we always take a moment to read off all of the top donors, because hell, I think it's a big deal. And one thing that I don't know, there's one person out there who acts like it's a cardinal sin to call out folks who support anything, but and of course they're the ones who give us the hell, the blithering idiot. But
yeah, blithering idiot.
Blithering. Put emphasis on blithering, man. Blithering. But anyways, this person gives hell for calling out anyone. But I know, because, you know, I'm not someone who, you know, has just sat around and done nothing for several years. I know how much it takes to make a buck. It takes a lot. I used to work at jobs where I got paid $7, well, actually not $7, I think it was like $8.20 an hour. It took me a whole hour to make $8.20. So I know what it means when someone throws in just $20. I know what it means when someone just throws in 10. Hell, that is an entire hour of work at a normal job I used to work at. And I know that that means a lot to folks. And so I want to make sure that we recognize you folks for sending in any support. Of course, we can't recognize everyone. We can only recognize everyone over 50 because, you know, there's so many of y'all. But I know what it means when y'all sit there and send in that money. It's a lot of money. Whether it be $5, $10, $500, $1,000, it's a lot. And I've got to say thank you to every single one of y'all who supported, because I know how much effort it took to be able to earn those dollars to then give it to the folks in Razom so that way they can continue on their efforts in saving lives in Ukraine. And so thank you to every single one of y'all so much once again. And that's always why we're big into calling out each donor on every single fundraiser, and also calling out every single super chatter on a normal super chatting night, and thanking y'all for the support, because I know what it means to make a buck. You know, I used to go clean bathrooms to make a buck. You know, not really a fun thing to talk about, but I did do it at some point. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you to everyone who helped out these fundraisers tonight. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and we are moving on to our poll questions. And up first, we have, first of all, a $100 donation from GF Logo. And a big thanks to you as well. Dang. You got us up to $14,295, so we are creeping our way up toward $15,000. I don't know if we'll hit that tonight, but that would be crazy if we did. But moving on to our first poll, it says, Russia tells Syria that Wagner must leave their country immediately or else. And why is that? 80% said Russia is trying to erase Wagner. 8% said it sounds like something else. 6% said unsure. And another 6% said Russia is just swapping forces. And to me, it definitely appears like Wagner is being erased from history. As we saw, they are ripping up their graves and putting concrete over them and ripping up all the signs. So all indications point to, once Prigozhin was knocked off in that jet, Putin is going to go through and basically wash out everything related to Wagner and anywhere around the world, including in other countries as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that he's going down to Africa pretty soon to do something down there to make sure they're not even there either. But Enforcer, what say you?
Oh yeah, he's doing that for sure. I would agree with you, Matthew. He is wiping these people out of existence. He's pulling a 1984 on these people. He's wiping them out of the papers, out of the info on the internet in Russia, everything. Even the graveyards are disappearing. And one thing that I didn't cover in the news tonight is that the Russian Federation has actually requested of the Assad government, the Assad regime regime. I just said that wrong again. What the hell is wrong? What is wrong with me? But the regime, I can't say that right tonight. You know what? Forget it. The Assad cabal, we'll call it that. They requested of the Assad group to forced the Wagner out. They told them to give them until the end of the month to leave. So that's something that also happened today as well, and it's showing that the Russians are going to erase the Wagner. And I think that's also further proof that the Russians shot that plane down, because as soon as Prigozhin was dead, before his body was even cold, and it took a longer time for his body to get cold because, there was some jet fuel involved, and, it stays warm for longer and a little bit hotter for longer, but as soon as he died, they immediately started dismantling the Wagner in every single way they could imagine and practically erasing them from existence. So with that, I hope that does address that poll fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And big shout out to Trister, one who put in a 100. He's trying to get us up to that $15,000 mark. And thank you again, Trister. I think combined tonight, Trister might have donated upwards of almost $1,000, I think. But I can't do math that well, but it's somewhere around that mark. So big thanks to Trister for putting in a ton of $100 donations. And we weren't able to call him off for how big the donation was because they were so spread out. But now we did. And big thanks to you, Trister, for that as well. And moving on to our next poll. It says, Zelensky says he wants corruption to be an offense of, quote-unquote, treason with life imprisonment. And what are your thoughts? And also, by the way, I believe the death penalty in Ukraine is abolished. They don't have that, so I don't think that's an option. 82% said good plan, I agree. 7% said unsure. 6% said there's another solution. And 5% said bad idea and too extreme. And I don't think it's too far-fetched to say that corruption would be the same as treason. It is a time of war, and martial law is declared right now. So I think that's fair. I think the punishment should be rather severe to make sure there's a strong deterrent for people not being corrupt at a time of need when the civilians are so vulnerable at this point in the war. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that it is something that is very important and quite something that must be considered. Polls are always very interesting to me as well, because for some reason I can listen to them and I can completely forget them in the course of about a minute and a half. In the words of Xi Jinping, what happened? Reread the line.
It said Zelensky says he wants corruption to be an offense of treason with life imprisonment. And thoughts?
I think that's a good thing, especially in cases of wartime. I think that's great to have a rule or a law like that. And hopefully we'll see that it starts to dissuade people from engaging in corrupt activities. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and we are fresh out of poll questions, so we are moving right back into, goodness, our live chat questions. And the first one goes to Rob Bob, who says, where and how will Ukraine get reparations?
Reparations. Where and how? That would be tough.
They'd have to get them from the Russians, but I don't think the Russians are going to give away any reparations.
Man, the Russians won't have any money to give. Like, they are going to be broke. So, I don't know how they would get them. I guess seized assets in the West, that could serve as some kind of a reparation to them, but I don't really think there's any way for them to get reparations from the Russians, even if the Russians flat out lose the war, because they're going to be in such a financial hard time that even if reparations were to attempt to be enforced, they probably would not be able to afford to even pay them. They would nationally go bankrupt. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least from how I'm seeing it right now. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to LSA Sergeant Figment. He says, first off, how's law school coming along? And second, once Ukrainian forces pass the Surovikin line, what is Russia's next plan on defending Crimea on the southeast of Ukraine? I gotta say, LSA Sergeant Figment, law school is going quite well, I gotta say. It's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And over the first few weeks here, we're actually about to start our third week. I'm learning that it really doesn't take as much preparation as I was doing before, so I'm able to cut back just a little bit. But it is very fascinating. It's very intriguing to me to get into these different areas of law. And the fact that we've heard it our whole life makes it a lot easier, I think, because everyone else seems to be taking a little bit longer to catch on than we are, which I'm very thankful for that. Because, it seems like a lot at first when you look at it, but it's really not that bad. But I'm enjoying it. Enforcer, how about you?
I've been enjoying it a pretty good bit. And also the amount of folks who are at law school that watch this show is actually surprisingly a decent amount. In the first week, it didn't really seem like anyone from the law school was watching it, and now there's a couple of people a day at this point who are like, hey dude, I watched your show last night. I'm like, oh dude, that's so cool. I don't know if they're on right now. I feel like most of them are probably gone to sleep at this point, getting ready to wake up at like 5 in the morning tomorrow and be at the law school by 7, like I am, because I have to do that tomorrow. But I've been having a fun time with it. I've been having a great time. It's a very interesting subject, the law is, to be able to listen to it, hear about it, study it. I think it's neat, and it's also been pretty fun so far. And so with that, I hope that addresses that part fairly well. And now, to get back to business. What is going to happen once the Ukrainians make it through that Surovikin line? As Steve Watkins slams down a hundo onto the table, throwing down that Benji, hit it, hit it.
And Dion Yurchenko put in that 50 too.
Man, they killing it tonight. And also, really quickly, I'll name out Renee Love, who threw in a 20, Gary G, who put in a 25, and Wes Downer, who put in a 20. Of course, that's not over 50, but I want to thank y'all, because while I always say we were never able to thank folks under 50, I like to take a moment to try and thank some folks who are putting in support under 50, because it all counts and is all very big in terms of supporting Ukraine. But once the Ukrainians pass the Surovikin line, the Russians won't be able to defend with any hardened defensive positions. Largely, they'll be counting on the terrain in the Crimean Peninsula to help them out. There are only 2 choke points that enter Crimea. It's very, very tough to enter Crimea once you are there. So that's probably what they'll be counting on. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Mark just threw in a 500 New Zealand dollar donation. Pretty huge. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our next one here. Let's see. Hold on just a second. Let me get a bot. The bots are trying to throw us for a loop here for a second. They're saying something positive about Ukraine, and they're bashing us at the same time.
Man,
but anyways.
Title sucks,
What?
Dude, title sucks. I would say that profile picture of a cow snorting a donkey's fart is probably what sucks the most.
Oh,
Like, gotta be honest with you, that's
burn.
the stupidest looking damn profile picture I've seen in a moment. So, you know, once you can stop getting over sucking up some donkey farts, maybe come back around. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Rob S, who says, "What's going on with the nuclear power plant?" and no news in a while. And then we had 15,000.
Dang, we just hit 15K. Let's go! Yeah! Okay, that was terrible. We're not doing that. We're stopping that right there. Dude, that sounds
Damn, son, where'd you find that?
Dude, that sounded like a tornado siren. We're going to be winding that thing up. But anyways, thank you all so much to every single one of y'all who put in support to the fundraiser to get it up to 15,000. That is absolutely amazing. I got to thank each and every one of y'all for helping this thing out. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. I can't even believe we hit 15,000 tonight. Now that is actually crazy. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And what happened with that nuclear power plant?
Oh, yeah. What happened to the nuclear power plant? It's good. It's good. It was all a bunch of hype talk, man. I said, I wouldn't even worry about it. But yeah, to summarize it, this is something I'm going to have to be honest with y'all. I'm always positive about Ukraine and everything, but the Ukrainians overhyped that way too much, especially Budanov. Budanov made it sound like the end of the world was coming, and, you know, considering that we didn't have any reason to doubt Ukrainian intelligence up till that point, we reported the story exactly as it was coming out of Ukrainian intelligence, which made it sound like the world was going to blow up. And so then one day he just said, "Oh, it's no big deal," and that was it. Literally, that's how it ended. He just said, "It's no big deal. We're fine." And since then, they've never talked about it again. So I've got to be quite honest with you. That actually made us discredit the Ukrainian intelligence agency a good deal as far as reporting the news from them or the information coming out from them, because we leaned into that so heavily for them to immediately back out of it and do a 180 so quickly it gave us whiplash that it really makes me apprehensive about covering anything that they're saying. So that's also why y'all haven't been hearing a lot about Ukrainian intelligence on our show, is because whenever I see that Ukrainian intelligence says anything, I give it about an arm's length and treat it with a grain of salt. So that's what happened, and that's also why you don't hear a lot coming out of Ukrainian intelligence anymore as far as our news goes. And so with that, hope that does address that fairly well. And also, I have to say this: we put a lot of work into trying to make sure that our news is as credible as possible. And of course, there is a slip up here and there. Sometimes the story isn't perfectly formed yet, so we think one thing, and then later on the facts come out, and it was a little less than what we were thinking. But with that one, that happened over the course of, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, and we have reported it for 2 or 3 weeks. And then it just ended. And also, Thomas said, or there was intervention. There was no intervention. Nobody got there. The IAEA went there. They weren't allowed to where the Ukrainians said the bombs were, so they didn't really get to see if they were there. And then finally, the Ukrainians just said, no big deal. And then it just disappeared. So Hope that does address that fairly well, at least from what we know. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Denise Bramblett, who says, Matt, my question is, what will Putin do about leadership of Wagner, and will he be able to find a leadership for Wagner who is loyal to him, but can also get the loyalty of the Wagner soldiers?
I don't really think there is anyone that can do that because, as far as I understand, Putin has actually declared that all the Wagner soldiers now have to join the Russian army again, but this time they actually have to join it, not just sign a contract with them. So I think they're now going through the process of breaking up the Wagner PMC entirely. They're not going to try and make it exist in any way, shape, or form, and they're either going to have to build a PMC from the ground up again, or they're just going to have to leave it be. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And also, Matthew, man, what a comment right there. I got to
tell your mother I said hi.
Tell oh no. And also that's an interesting comment to say, considering that we know where you came from. And he was looking at Romania, if you know what I mean, for a pretty good while there, like a solid 3 seconds. He just soaked it in. So
what a hateful individual too. Apparently he's homophobic or something, making a comment like that.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I mean, that's absolutely
nasty.
That's just absolutely deplorable and despicable to think that someone would, you know, hide behind something as sick as that, and it comes from a specific.
That's that community.
Yeah,
you know the blithering idiot.
Yeah, you can't expect anything less from that community. They will go and attack everyone. Hell, they'll become racist if they need to try and further a cause. And then they come over here and they do it, so that way you can see it clear as day. If y'all were wondering, just to make sure that we make this clear, there's a certain YouTube community out there. Some of y'all may know who they are. It's the one that will never be mentioned because it drives them wild, and we love to know that we're driving someone wild out there. But they said these two are the coolest gay couple I've heard stream in a while. And that comes from a certain community. Some of y'all may know who that is. You know, and it's the community that will not be named. But it's very interesting to see that one of their go-to things is to be homophobic. Because while I don't do or say anything political, I still think that's absolutely despicable to try and say negative things about folks based off of their private lives. That's sickening, really. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving into our next one, we have one from SV Olympia, who says, do you think Russia and Putin shot a nuclear bomb at the moon covertly, or was it a practice run for future nuclear missiles to blow up the moon? Crazy times with Madman Putin.
And what? Wait, reread that one again?
I don't think they shot a nuclear bomb at the moon, but they shot a lunar rover at it, and it blew up, but that's no nuke. They said, do you think that Russia shot a nuke at the moon?
No. No, they didn't. They shot a little lunar probe at the moon, and it ended up crushing onto it like a tin can. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Wandering, who says, what will be the fate of Prigozhin's African holdings? And I would be curious to see how they behave with the alleged death of the owner and financier.
Probably going to cease to exist. I don't mean to sound like a creaking door there. I don't know why that came out of my throat. I was going, and then it went, that's it. Then I came into the room. But anyways.
I'm telling you.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. Dude, that's after you sit there and you get like really sleepy, but you hear something in your bedroom, a closet, you go up to it and you open it, you hear, anyone home?
Hello?
Hello? But anyways, moving back to the question. What was the question again, Matthew?
What will be the fate of Prigozhin's African holdings? And it would be curious to see how they behave with the alleged death of the owner and financier.
They'll probably crumble, because if there's no one really to inherit that, it'll probably go to the local warlords, to be quite honest. If there are any local warlords in those areas, or it may go to the government in charge of that area. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Anani Mouse, who says, in relation to your first poll question, is there any international law or agreements that allow Ukraine to go on the offensive into Russia to rescue Ukraine's kidnapped children?
Sadly, there's really no way they can do that with Western weaponry and continue to maintain Western support, because it would directly insinuate Western involvement in the war, which could start World War III. So realistically, there isn't a good way for them to do that, unless if they were to use Soviet weaponry that they had before the war began. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. It's an unfortunate thing, I know, but it's still a realistic aspect, or a realistic view of what would happen. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Otubes, who says, "Have you heard about that one?" I think might be too political to read off. I think it's right on the border, sadly. But good question. Sadly, we just can't address it on stream. And moving on to our next one, we have one from Joel, who says, "I hope that the AFU is building more assault brigades as the offensive continues. And any news about that?"
Let's see. Reread the line. Whoa, what happened?
Oh dear.
I don't know how I
Joel said, "Say what?"
Oh no, nothing.
Joel said, "I hope that the AFU is building more assault brigades as the offensive continues. And any news about that?"
They currently are. It's an OPSEC thing, but every once in a while we hear about new units being raised. So they are, but we don't know how many, and we don't know what they're being equipped with. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Average Joe, who says, do you actually think that Russia had Prigozhin's DNA on file and could actually test it that fast? And doubtful, but not even the FBI can test that fast.
I don't think they could. I think they are saying that just to make it sound like they're launching some kind of an investigation, but they knew Prigozhin was in that plane, so this is more of a formality, really. So I have a feeling they weren't able to test it that quickly, but who knows? I'm not a DNA forensics expert, so I don't know how quickly it takes to DNA analyze anyone these days. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Dex, who says, "From what I've seen of the Swedish CV-90s, they seem to be used defensively in the more northern parts of the front line, like in Crimea. And is that an effective use of the vehicle?"
Yes, the CV-90 is a fairly well-armored armored personnel carrier, not tanky, but well-armored for an APC or an IFV. So they are being used largely within their doctrinal role, or at least how the Ukrainians can use them. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Happy Dragon, who says, "Do you think that the Wagner soldiers will retaliate or just quit fighting for Russia because of Prigozhin's death?"
I think they're going to quit fighting for Russia. I don't think they're retaliating, because they're actually supposed to retaliate about 8 hours ago, and they haven't. So I don't think they're doing anything at this point but crying and dissolving. So with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well. At least from what we're seeing now, the situation could change, but that seems to be the going rate at the moment. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Pakatang, who says, "Is it true that anti-drone guns sterilize the soldiers that use them, and hopefully not?"
I haven't heard about that. I wouldn't know. I would have to declare ignorance on that. I'm thinking they probably don't, but who knows? So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
And I'm looking through the spreadsheet here, and I see that we have 3 questions left in the spreadsheet. And moving on to our next one. This one goes to Diz for Shiz, who says, "Do you think there will be a blowback? Excuse me. Do you think there will be blowback from the latest corruption crackdown?"
No, I don't think so, because, who in the world is going to sit there and go, "No, your efforts to crack down on corruption is wrong"? Like, who in the world's going to do that? It's not going to look good for them, especially at this point. So I don't think there's going to be any blowback or pushback to it, because whoever would do that would look terrible. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Pakatang, who says, "What do you think took down Prigozhin's plane, a bomb or a SAM?"
Most likely a SAM, in my opinion. I don't think it was a bomb. I think it was a surface-to-air missile, because the plume that was behind the plane when it started to spiral appeared to have been similar to one we would have seen from a Manpad or a Pantsir missile if it was to hit a plane. So I think it was a surface-to-air missile. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Carl Elwell, who says, "What's your take on the upcoming draft in Russia?"
The upcoming draft. It seems as though you may have been watching this channel a little bit. We were talking about that not too long ago. Very observant of you. I think that it's going to be unwelcome by the Russian public, but a lot of them might just, be unhappy about it, but still follow along and not do anything to rise up. I'm starting to get an idea that the Russian public is a lot more sheepish than we initially thought they were, because they have endured a lot so far and actually haven't risen up. So I would have a feeling they're probably going to just trudge along with it, but a lot of people are going to be very unhappy with it, and it's going to start heavily damaging the credibility the Russian government has with the supporters of the war. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I thank you all so much once again for watching. It has been an amazing night, and we were able to raise $15,200 for tonight's fundraiser. An absolutely incredible amount, and it's going to be helping out so many people inside of Ukraine through Razom for Ukraine. I've got to thank each and every one of y'all so much once again for making that possible. It's what we run this entire channel for, is for these fundraisers. And I've got to say, y'all have blown this one out of the park. It always makes me very happy and very inspired on a personal level whenever these fundraisers reach unbelievable heights like it did tonight. Because it makes me feel like the 6 days a week that we work on this, and all of the exhaustion and everything else that we go through to keep this thing running week by week is always worth it, because at the end of every single streaming week, we were always able to help out in an incredibly massive way for the folks in Ukraine. And y'all were able to make that possible tonight. And I got to thank y'all so much for all of y'all's kindness that y'all have always had for the folks in Ukraine and helping them out. Some of y'all have tough times yourselves, and yet y'all still reach into your pockets so that way y'all can help out the nonprofits that are doing real help over there and actually saving people's lives through food, medical treatment, and everything else. Y'all are truly incredible. And I say that again and again and again. And, you know, of course, some people could say I'm a little biased because y'all are the community that is on my channel, but there is no way in hell that I could not say such a thing like that a million times. Every single one of y'all is absolutely incredible, and every single one of y'all has done such a big help in keeping the Lee Spring Army alive by supporting this channel with Super Chats and helping us to do this as a job, and y'all have also helped out massively in saving the lives of folks in Ukraine, which is the crowning achievement of this entire channel. Thank you all so much once again for watching. If y'all enjoyed, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because it does help this channel to keep running, and it also makes us really happy to know that folks enjoyed it enough that they want to see more of it. And with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And good night, LSA. Thank you all for another great fundraiser once more, and of course, a big ol' yeehaw! See you Tuesday.
Yes. The Lee Spring Army sends its regards